Crossover.
Oh, killer crossover.
Just crossover. It just crossed him over nastily.
Another victim to the crossovers. Cross him up and sit him down.
All right, the crossover is powered by Everlow Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlowconcrete.com. Good morning.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good.
You look spiffy today. It's a solid look.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Color pops.
I don't know if that's I said the same thing to you when you walked in because, we're on the radio and sometimes.
Well, we're on the TV.
Yeah, we're on the TV, but only from the waist up. Or really actually from the nipples up.
Mm-hmm.
True. True.
I like
every time you
the
come
baby
in here,
blue. My teams are baby blue these days. They're rocking baby blue.
Well,
So,
you
got a lot of it.
You follow a basketball team that's in a conference where the only team that does not have blue is Providence.
And St. John's has a little bit.
They wear that dark blue uniform, and you're like,
why?
Yeah. Even though they're the red Storm, you would figure they want to wear red as much as possible.
But I think whenever I see you wear dress pants, I'm like, okay, you got something big coming up.
I don't.
That is true. I guess I didn't notice that.
I'm just wearing. These. I don't wear jeans, so these are my pants. I have 5 pants, and that's a week of pants.
Yeah, 2 days of shorts.
I'm trying to keep jeans alive in this country because here's the deal:
cancel them. Jeans are done, folks.
We'll go on like when we travel for basketball for Omaha basketball, and I like to wear jeans because I'm comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're getting on the plane, all the coaches, like the players, are in their traveling sweatsuits, and like the coaches are in joggers, and they're like, "You wear jeans?" I'm like, "Yeah, I wear jeans a lot. I like jeans."
I would wear joggers on the plane. I would wear jeans to go drink out in the various towns that we would travel to.
Do you tuck in your shirt to your jeans?
No.
Okay.
Never.
They used to try and make us do that in elementary, or not elementary, in high school. It's like, why?
Yeah.
No, don't tuck it.
Probably for me, joggers don't fit real well. I own joggers, but I don't really have long legs.
Charles says athleisure pants. I would be wearing athleisure pants.
So this is how so there is the middle between the jeans and there's a little bit of joggers and nice pants is the golf pants.
These are basically golf pants.
Okay.
Those are very comfortable.
I wear those more often, but I still try and keep the jeans alive. But I notice
they look nice, but they're light.
People don't wear jeans very often.
Yeah,
I
do.
Good. I have my jeans
are dead.
Go-to.
Jeans
you
are
can't
done.
cancel jeans.
I'm canceling jeans.
Jeans is like
goodbye jeans.
Jeans is
Goodbye,
like the
jeans.
fabric of America.
Although now I was like, when was the last time I wore jeans? It might have been actually at the KU Colorado game, which was in late November. So I might.
Exactly. Jimmy knows.
But
Jimmy's like, maybe jeans are.
But here's the thing: when
Costco keeps jeans alive. Like when you go to Costco and you look at the clothes, the jeans are closer to the like the better pile than like the joggers and everything else and the fleece or whatever else they're selling.
They have so much. They have so many piles of things at Costco. I bought a coat there. I bought a nice winter coat there this year.
I did too.
It's pretty good.
$20.
Yeah.
that's a good deal.
Yeah. It's like I wear it.
You get a hot dog too.
I used to wear it all the time. Now it's not cold anymore, so I don't wear it anymore.
Hey,
that was a tough 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No one ever knocked the clothes at Costco because they got good.
They do.
And they got good deals.
You guys aren't the only people that have told me that over the. I mean, even
That's
before
real.
I moved here, that was the thing. I was like, oh, I did not know
If you
this.
want something like blank, like it's got nothing on it, Costco. I like blank stuff.
Yeah.
Except for when you pull out that tag and it says Kirkland. That's a great pair of Kirkland jeans you're wearing.
Unless
It's
it says
where
Kirkland, I don't want it.
That's where I get my golf balls. I haven't gone in and bought the whole like wedge set yet that they have there,
Wow.
but I'm considering it.
Who is this Kirkland? Levon. He played for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Bad man. So good. Number 99.
You
He's
know,
got
when
his own brand. He's great.
When you're with your wife and daughter, you don't think, what, that she shed looks really good. That looked good in the backyard.
Every
would.
time I go in there,
Let's
I see
get two.
something. I'm like, a fire pit?
For the living room.
Yeah, maybe it's time for a fire pit.
Hey, one of the best things that happened to Costco in this town is that way out on Maple, that store opened because the Costco I like to go to at 132nd and Dodge is
Peaceful.
no longer super busy.
It has absolutely diffused both places, which is
Hey,
fantastic.
all you Westerners, you stay out there.
Yeah, no,
Us
I'm
urban
there.
inner city
The mean
people that
streets.
go to Costco.
132nd Dodge. Yeah, those guys.
I mean, we can't be
Just call
having,
it Crenshaw.
we can't have the riffraff at our Costco.
But you're right. That place used to be a disaster, and it is. Things have been diffused there for sure. I used to tell people that it might be a better idea for you to go out to the Papillion Costco because it's a quieter, it's a calmer environment in there. Your blood pressure doesn't go up. When
It
you walk
is,
in.
Ooh,
but
I
it
have to
doesn't
watch
seem
that,
like it has
yeah.
as much stuff.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that. It's kind of a choose your own adventure. Like you walk into each Costco and you don't know what's gonna, you don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what there is in each of the stores. It's kind of great.
It's like when we drink in Morgantown. You just don't know what's going to happen when you walk in a bar. I mean, it's West Virginia. So
How are we looking on the pile? out
Mount
there?
Happer.
Yeah.
I've heard that it is about melted. I actually thought of that earlier.
Today was the day that John Bishop pegged. He said it will be gone today, and I believe he might have nailed it.
Didn't Josh say March?
Josh said
I
tomorrow.
think Joshua's tomorrow.
Okay,
yeah.
that's fair.
So it's a race.
Oh,
Yeah. And I said like 3 weeks later.
We're gonna see John out there with like a blow dryer, like trying to just get the rest of the
I don't
pile
know.
down.
I can't.
Josh
see
is
it.
going to be crushing up ice bags, and
Josh is
going
gonna be throwing ice on top while John's trying to melt it all.
John's on his way to Cincinnati, so he won't be here to see his.
So Josh holds the cards here.
I guess
He
so.
could do whatever he wants.
Yeah, we could make a lot of claims.
That is a pretty good job pegging today.
Yeah, as well
Because when it was snowing a couple of weeks ago,
done. Which is
and
when
then
we
it got
called
really,
it. Yeah.
and then when it got really cold,
Yeah.
you're like,
You're like, that's never
It
going
felt
away.
like the end game. It felt like we would never see
Yeah.
the sun again.
All of a sudden I'm seeing pictures of baseball fields and things like that. We have baseball in this town next week across the board.
I know.
It's Nebraska and Omaha
Well-
play on Tuesday.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, Gary told me.
Well,
about
so
it.
when I first 'cause
Where's the
they
weather?
asked if I
It'll be
do
cool.
the PA, and I'm like, yeah, we won't be leaving for Sioux Falls yet.
Ooh.
It like
and the
looks
next
snow.
week looks a little questionable.
But now it's supposed to be like 55 and maybe some rain.
Yeah.
All right, something I brought up this idea, and I think we've talked about this before. There are a lot of people on board with this. So I want to buy the Pizza Hut
Oh,
brand
hell yes. Okay.
and bring back the standalone stores.
You want to buy Pizza Hut.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
He wants to be
But,
Mr.
but,
Hut.
but most importantly,
Big investment.
I want the standalone stores because I'm thinking about nostalgia.
Mhm.
Like when we were kids, that's where we went.
Yeah, the checkered floors.
Yeah.
We loved it.
Saturday before Spurs games,
now
Dad didn't
we're
want to buy
parents.
concessions.
And so we could bring our kids because we enjoyed going there.
See, I rarely ate there. I always just, turned in my book it thing and got the personal pan pizza.
At
and
least
then
he had
dipped.
that.
I didn't. I never ate. We never ate in there. I just got my ticket, turned
Yeah.
in my ticket, and then took my personal pan pizza and went home. And I really loved having my own pizza. That was great. Those were the days.
Hey, then you get older, you can still have your own pizza. You just get judged for it now.
Well, but like in college, oh man, I took advantage of this so much. They had the deal with Papa John's, and there was a Papa John's kind of right there on the corner,
Yes.
on right next to Anderson Hall, and the Royals score 5 runs and win.
Uh-huh.
That's what would have to happen.
which in
Royals-
college was rare for me.
So you use Royals 5,
Yeah.
and the pizza is like
Yes.
like $5 or something
Yeah.
like that. It's a whole pizza, and you get your garlic sauce and all that
It's a hell
stuff.
of a deal.
And I'm just like, yep, done.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Meal plan, you're out tonight.
You just but you did meal plan.
Yeah, that's my meal. That was
Yeah.
my meal plan. And then once you move out of the dorms, you don't get the meal plan anymore, so you got to fend for
Yes.
yourself.
Dino says, he goes, I'm on to this about bringing back Pizza Hut. He goes, but there are some things that we have to talk about.
Okay.
He goes, I think any place that you go back to your 80s business model would kill it nowadays.
You might be right.
He said, but here's the problem. You've got to do it. Everything has to be the same as it was. The red cups,
Yes.
the buffet, the beer, the reading club. You also have to have arcade games in the lobby while people are waiting that
Yep.
barely work. You also have to bring back, he's probably thought about this more than I have, old pizza pans. He goes, if you noticed, when Pizza Hut changed their pizza pans, it changed the quality of the pizza. He goes, but the biggest thing, he said, they need to bring back the dough that they made in-house.
Oh,
He goes,
that's
ever since
right.
they changed the dough at Pizza Hut, it is not the same tasting pizza that I imagine you and I are the same age that we enjoyed as kids.
This is a big investment.
This is like the new Coke.
we're talking about games, pans, changing
Music.
out floors.
Well, I mean, I would have to go and buy out like the Chinese restaurants that
That
moved
become
into the
Pizza
Pizza Hut and they never changed the look of it. So I wouldn't have to change the,
that's true. The outside
Yeah.
structure is still there.
but
There's
we'd
a
have to work
bank
on
or
the
two.
inside.
Still looks like a Pizza Hut.
I've seen one that sells insurance.
Question from John on the inbox here. Gary won't buy a penguin because it would be too expensive to feed, but he wants to buy the whole Pizza Hut brand. It seems like Pizza Hut might cost more than a bunch of fish.
But what if the penguin would
Well, to be
eat
fair,
pizza?
It is expensive to feed a penguin. But I think, I would
Seen
make
Danny
no money
DeVito.
off the penguin.
Right.
Like,
Right, you're getting returned.
like the Penguin ain't going performing
I
at
don't
kids'
know.
birthday parties.
Yeah, you'd have to really do it right if you wanted, if you wanted to do this. If you're looking for
I would go.
return on
Don't you
investment
guys
here.
think that nowadays, where everything looks like it's cookie cutter,
Yeah.
if you went back and leaned on nostalgia, like if we went back and brought Rock and Roll Runs in downtown Lincoln back, you don't think people would go?
Yeah, I think people would go.
Because we were going there as kids
Mhm.
or, like 20s. Now we're older. We're like, hey, I had a great time there. Let my kids experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved Rock and Roll Runs in downtown Lincoln.
I'd be all for this pizza idea. In fact, we'd go there for our anniversary dinner. Hell yes.
I don't know. Yeah.
You laugh now,
Why
but
did we
I
go
want to
away?
talk to Alicia.
Why did we go away
she'd be for it.
from the unique places like this?
The elimination of the hand check. Wait, that's bad.
Yeah.
Rainforest Cafe.
Rainforest Cafe.
Are there,
Had one
are
of the
there still
legends.
a couple that exist?
That's
Oh, yeah.
probably okay. Oh yeah, there's probably
I
one.
think I went to one
There's got to be one
3
in
years
Times
ago?
Square.
The one in Kansas City, but
There's
that might have
one
closed.
at the top level of Mall of America. I'm pretty sure is still there.
Yes, with the bubble gum
Old
the
Met
Bubba
Stadium.
and the Hooters.
And the Hooters.
Oh, will the Hooters be around much longer? We'll
Is
see.
there a Hard
get there
Rock
now?
at Mall of America?
There is.
There's
There is.
gotta
And
be.
it's on the floor level with the amusement park because I've eaten there.
Is there at least a Sbarro?
Are Hard
There
Rock
might be.
Cafes still as big as they used to be?
Every
There's
time
one of those
I've
in
gone,
Times Square. I
Yes,
can
there
tell-
is.
I can
I
tell you
haven't been to one in like 5 years, but the last time I went, it was very busy.
There's one in Vegas. It was pretty busy, but I canceled that because it's Vegas. I mean,
Yeah,
we
Hard
had
Rock.
one in San Antonio, but then they realized it was San Antonio, and I don't. No, they still have it. Planet Hollywood's the one that closed there.
Planet Hollywood's interesting.
Looks like there's a bunch of Hard Rock
Been to one of
cafes
those.
nationwide, in some various places. Looks like there is one. Let's click here.
Get one in Gretna.
There's one in Deadwood.
Oh,
Of all places.
In
Of course.
That's the only.
Hard Rock,
Deadwood,
Deadwood.
Vegas, New York. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, there's only a couple west of the Mississippi at this point. Looking at Deadwood, Catoosa, Oklahoma,
Of course,
And-
Catoosa.
and
know that.
San Antonio, Texas.
Okay, that makes
Is
sense.
that on the Riverwalk?
It's on the
Ah,
Riverwalk. So it's
is it?
overpriced, and yeah,
What a view!
And,
drainage ditch.
There is one in New Orleans, apparently, as well. If you go to New Orleans and get a Hard Rock Cafe, you got a problem. Yeah, you don't do
Can
that.
we go to Jack in a Box? We have Jack in a Box at home.
Hey, I'll say though, Jimmy, every time I go to Kansas City, I get like on my way out, I order like 100 tacos and then just,
Aren't they good?
yeah, they're so good.
Yeah, they take me back to like junior and senior year of high school about 2:30 in the morning when the one sober person would be nominated to go get it.
And my dad loves them, so I always bring them back I always bring a few back for my dad too, and he'll eat them like weeks.
Only place I dip a burger in ranch. It
Oh, good
sounds
one. Yeah.
it sounds
Interesting.
gross, but yeah, the ultimate cheeseburger, the jumbo jack, you dump it in the ranch. It's pretty damn good. I'll never do it with anything else.
So is the cutoff north of Kansas City between Jack in the Box and Hardee's?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah, because there's
Is
a
that
Jack
the
in the Box
same
near the
parent?
Legends. Yeah.
So the Hardee's there was a Hardee's out at 204th, like Elkhorn.
There still is.
Gone.
No, it's still there.
I was just in the area.
Wait,
I
it closed in the past couple. I just got a biscuit there the other day.
I grabbed Jimmy John's coming back from Lincoln last weekend
Yeah.
right there, and we noticed that the Hardee's is not in business anymore right there.
Wow.
Jimmy's devastated.
I
Yeah.
mean, it was a pretty good biscuit. I'd never had their breakfast.
Yeah.
How were
Hardee's.
you coming back from Lincoln that you ended up on 204th and Dodge?
Well, that's how I
He went
go.
out of his
You
way
went the
for
long
Hardee's.
way.
I don't
Hey, I would do
I
something
have a
like
principle. I don't drive in the wrong direction to get to the right direction. So that makes me have to deal with the worst street in America, 204th Street, from Interstate 80 to Dodge.
that.
It's
Yeah, you're not
horrible.
wrong. It is bad.
There's 100 stoplights and everybody's going 8 miles an hour.
And they keep procreating along with all the new townhomes.
Yes,
Like, where'd that
There's
come
so many
from?
houses out there now.
Where's this
It used to-
McDonald's?
It used to be nothing, and now now there's so many things.
It was the movie theater we saw Cocaine Bear at and nothing else. And now it's
That's
like
right,
a whole
yeah.
neighborhood.
That's right. That was a good time.
They should have widened that.
We got to throw that together. We could add that to the listener show that we're doing.
A movie?
Yes.
Yeah, throw in a really bad movie. We all go hang out.
I like the listener show and I like but I'm starting to think about the bracket
Okay.
of the most iconic callers to 1620.
Yeah.
This would be
We could-
questions for you guys. I mean, you grew up listening to it. You've been here. I'd love to see this.
We could come up with
Josh listened to it.
we would
Both
we would
Joshes.
need to ask some former zone hosts for help, but we would be able to get to like 32 probably.
I enjoyed your
Yeah.
conversation about Michael's bracket yesterday. I went in, I was like, this is fascinating. And then not only did I do a who wins in an NCAA tournament format, I started going, 1 versus 8. Could they steal one game, or would this be a 4-game sweep?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot there.
We love brackets.
I think Pavelka chimed in. He goes, "Is this the bracket that I won previously?"
It's like, you're not going to put me up to defend my crown?
They bring back all the old champions.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some good stuff.
I love this 1620 the fan, and we just have our favorite ones do a round table. I'm all for this.
Text from the 308. There was a place in Kearney in the 90s called Bazooka Joe's that
Why have I
was
heard
like
of this?
50s themed, and I really wish there was a place like that. Yeah, the old school diners are kind of gone too.
My wife went to school in Kearney. I'll have to ask her.
Bazooka Joe's.
We used to have used to have an old school diner in downtown Omaha, and
right there,
and then it's gone. And within like months, there's a hotel.
Indeed,
or a Halloween surplus store.
Have you seen downtown Lincoln lately?
Yeah,
it's completely different. There's just hotels and apartments now.
I know, and so I've had this.
That's not
as someone who has got a college kid that's living in downtown Lincoln. Is there enough people in Lincoln for all of the downtown living? I think Lincoln has more downtown living, and I know the campus is right there, but has more downtown living than Omaha has.
It might.
But is there enough of a demand that people are moving into like moving from 27th Van Dorn down to 9th and S?
I don't know, man. Well, I mean,
and is it affordable for them to live down there?
Like, there's enough probably business. Like Huddle is huge, and probably all those people live down there, and people who live and work downtown, and then a lot of college kids.
Yeah,
that would be fun.
But when I was in college, it was like cool. What was the apartment complex called? Everybody wanted to move into something house, HAUS.
Beer.
So everybody wanted to live there.
Wait, Beer House is the other place.
Is that the one that's down like near Devaney?
Park House.
Oh, Park House.
Park House. That was like one of the original ones, and everybody wanted to live there.
Because now, then it became the big new one became the 50-50 or whatever it was called. That was right by. That was as far as.
It was got a cute name.
Campus east as you could get, because then they built those suites, and then the 50s was right across the street. That was like the new thing when I was there.
Now there's just so many options.
Yeah, kids these days that are in college that don't like move out of the dorms, they don't get that. Some of us lived at 26th and W. Some of us lived at
25th and Y, baby.
18th and G.
Oh,
like they're where Chuck lives is like a resort hotel across the street from Barry's.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Not the Stratosphere or whatever it's called.
I don't think I've told this story
I love stories
on here yet, but my freshman year, 2018, 3 of my buddies and I, we got one of the suites for our dorm, which is basically an apartment. Like it's very nice. It's 2 bedrooms and then a common area. Very, very nice. Like way too nice for college kids to be living in. And
humble.
None of us knew this when we moved in, but there is a maid service for a college dorm.
They come and pick up your junk.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I remember it was a Thursday. It was the first week of classes. Everyone else was at class, and I had a later start to the day. So I was just in my bed at like 9 a.m. and someone knocks on the door, and I'm like, who is knocking on the door at 9 a.m. on a Thursday? And I'm in my underwear, and I go and look through our people, and it's a maid. And I was like, what?
Did somebody order me something?
I was like, what is this? And I was like, 1 second. And I put on some clothes, and then she's like, I'm just here to clean the place. I'm like, whoa,
cool.
You have someone to clean the place?
Thank you. Should I tip?
So
it was crazy.
I remember when we went on the tour, Chuck's in Atmosphere. That's what it's called, which is basically a deluxe hotel. Where it's packed full of college kids.
It's amazing. My house was so crappy.
So was mine in Lawrence. 13th and Mass looked like it was.
I lived in the bottom.
I
lived in the bottoms the last 2 years to even things out. It was fantastic.
Like even college kids at Creighton that don't live in the dorms, like where Matt lives. I mean, that's a nice place. I mean, I think if you are going to move off campus and you're going to Creighton, you should be like 36th in California. Okay, get a place there.
Oh, nice.
That's really living off campus. Like if you're going to be in Lincoln, you live where Connor and I live.
Yeah.
You're in Omaha, you're going to UNO. You're not moving down to like, Broadmoor You're like living.
Yeah, it shouldn't count.
Kids don't understand.
It shouldn't count.
You're living over here in this neighborhood.
I lived 25th and Y and 33rd in Holdridge, and there was an elementary school, and we had like neighbors that lived there. His name was Valentine, and the little kid there was Valentine and then little Valentine.
Jose Valentine?
Little Valentine once extorted us for the lock on our shed. We had a shed outside. He took the lock off of it and said, "I'll give you this lock back if you get me a Beyblade." A little, and I was like, "All right, deal. You got a deal, Valentine. I
Those
need that
Beyblades
lock."
were big. It's a big deal.
It's like I bought him a $12 Beyblade, and he was fired up about it.
It's like, all right.
And he was looking for other stuff to extort us
that
with.
kid is talented.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Hey, your maid service. So when we were taking the tour before Chuck enrolled, there's the dorm rooms that are down on the way edge of campus by like where that U-Stop is.
Yeah.
It's where they put like a lot of the freshman football players. But they do your laundry. That is one of the things. If you are in that dorm, which it's sweet, they will do your laundry.
Could you imagine?
I was like, don't even think twice. And Chuck's in the fraternity world, but I was like, you need to go here.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could imagine.
We had
That's
the maid
problem.
service, but I did have to do my own laundry. So
yeah.
They had to start. They had to draw the line somewhere.
A maid service in college?
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. It wasn't like she didn't clean it top to bottom. Like
it's a great recruiting tool.
It is.
Yeah, wiped off the surfaces and vacuum. That's all we need.
Yeah, it was very. Yeah, it was amazing.
All they'll need is a dispensary once this medical thing happens, and they'll be set.
I was blown away.
Little brewery, little restaurant.
Yeah, why not?
Man,
yeah.
You know what? We had the Pizza
what
Huts, and you guys had maid service.
Yeah.
I think I'd take the Pizza Huts.
It made us much stronger. We had to conserve our funds for beer money, and
yeah, we had to fight for the things that we were getting.
You never knew.
Yeah, we had to go to Samurai Sam's and get a bowl.
Go grab that keg. It might be still something in it.
Samurai Sam's was awesome. I missed that place. The one it was connected to the U-Stop.
Yeah, what is that now? It was.
I don't know. No idea.
It changed twice while I was there. I don't even remember now.
That was because back in the day, that's where I always talk about pizza place. They're in Lawrence and they're still in Lawrence.
Pizza Shuttle?
Pizza Shuttle.
Yeah.
So Pizza Shuttle used to be
pepperoni
there,
cream cheese at 2 a.m. changes your life.
And then Samurai Sam's came in because it was owned by former Nebraska players.
Mm-hmm.
Right next to that U-Stop, which it's changed, but that U-Stop used to be the place where if you were upright and had a pulse and you maybe looked like you were in college, you were getting yourself a case of beer.
Indeed.
Nice.
Indeed. There's a couple more places like that.
There still is. There still is. You go into some places
True
in Lincoln
staple.
on a Saturday and you're, getting something and there's somebody in front of you and you're like, they're not 21.
Yeah.
Swipe right through.
I don't know what it is now, but the one over by the McDonald's out there, like over
Mitch
by
Kramer
where
going in to buy beer.
over by where people would tailgate at the Res. It was
Off a Cornhusker?
yeah, it used to be called Bud's.
Yes.
I don't know what it is now, but
I think there was a place called
They-
Moe's.
they were serving people.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
heard of Moe's.
Moe's is a solid
I know
place.
Moe's.
Yeah.
Amen.
And street liquor?
And I think it's still there.
Yeah. It's not like that anymore. I guess I don't know what it's like anymore.
Well, we do. Apparently, it's palatial. Everything's palatial for the youngs.
Yeah. Hey, here's a 2-story whatever.
Would you like a
I'm so
complimentary
blown
back
away by
rub?
maid
Yeah.
service.
I
would-
know.
I would
Me
take that
too.
today.
Still.
these coffee shops and crap, all this garbage.
Well, I think it's like a recruiting tool. I mean, because
there was athletes living in those suites, and each room had the 2 bedrooms and the common space, but then they each had their own
A moat.
bathroom and shower.
Of course.
So you didn't have to like have a shared area like that with the rest of the hall.
Common bucket. where
And
everybody
that's
sits in.
so the whoever came to clean, and it was every other week. It wasn't a weekly thing, but they would come replace all the toilet paper, that kind of stuff, clean the shower, and then just pick up trash if they saw it.
Fantastic.
But I was like, guys, like
This isn't how it's supposed to work.
guys, we cannot just leave garbage littered throughout.
And they're
the
like,
room
well, why not?
and be
We
like-
have a maid.
and be like, oh, I'll just leave it for the maid. No, we got to just throw the garbage
You
away.
kept
We don't
everyone
want to
in
make her
check.
do all that.
Yeah, you were the voice of reason among the crew.
All right.
Okay.
Enjoy your off weekend.
Basically, yeah. Gearing up for some baseball next week. Theoretically, weather pending, of course.
Will there be next Friday? Will there be a fish fry at the Chuck?
That's a great question.
Ooh.
If the
If
weather
there is,
we're looking.
I've never been to a fish fry, and so everyone tells me about this.
I'm looking at
beer and fish.
41 for a high next Friday, which that's not exactly
Does the
baseball.
Big East have the same rule as the Big Ten that it has to be a certain temp?
I don't
The
know.
real feel.
Now, UC Davis will be here next weekend.
They don't want to play. Oh, you got to make them play in it. Builds character.
The other thing is there's a basketball game on Saturday, and Saturday looks a little better weather-wise. I would not like to play 2 on Sunday. Looks great. Why don't we just play 3 on Sunday?
Triple header.
Take Monday off from school.
Hey,
Have fun doing a triple header
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen.
of a game that'll never end.
Over under 2 games played in that series.
Take a couple bottles of honey.
Well, let's see. So Nebraska opens up Big Ten play next week with Washington.
That's right.
Wow,
Oh my
which is
god.
Already there. Wow.
That's
Yes.
right. Yes.
They have a 3-game set with Washington beginning next Friday.
Oh, is Omaha home next weekend, or are they just home during the week?
Yes, they are.
Let's see. Let's see the Mavs are playing.
I think all
I
games
it's
next weekend
like
get played.
SIU Edwardsville.
Something.
Oh,
Probably
I've done a
something
game
like that.
against them.
They don't start
At the
conference play for a
Tau.
couple of weeks.
Mavs.
Edwardsville. Remember asking them, what would you like to be called? That is a bit of a wordy name. Can we just shorten this to something?
SIU.
Can we call you
Edwardsville.
Eddie?
SIU Edwardsville, indeed. 3:00 on Friday afternoon at the Tau.
I hope I'm in a bar in Sioux Falls. That's all
Oh,
that'll be the off
we
day.
need to keep you there all
Sounds
weekend.
like a name of an album.
All weekend.
Like-
Okay, so all right, so they Mavs win tomorrow. Basketball, outright Summit League champs.
Yep.
T-shirts.
What happens if they don't win the Summit League tournament?
If St. Thomas wins the tournament, Omaha goes to the NCAA
Okay.
tournament.
So that's the one thing they need to root for.
Yep. But Omaha will play either Oral. If they win tomorrow, they'll play Oral Roberts or Denver
And that starts Tuesday or Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. I
Okay.
think, yeah.
So they changed the Summit League tournament used to always end on Tuesday, and to get a better time slot, they moved it up. So the semifinals and the finals are on CBS Sports Network.
And that's
so
Sunday,
Saturday,
Monday?
Saturday, Sunday.
DePaul's
Oh,
getting bumped.
So Wednesday
It's gonna
is
end on
playing
Sunday.
games. The 1 and 2 seed. So 1 would play 8 or 9. 2 plays 7 on Thursday. Then those 2, the winners have Friday off. The rest of the tournament goes, and then Saturday, Sunday. But
That's great.
because they want it on TV, the semifinal on Saturday doesn't begin until 7. The next game
Oh.
wouldn't start until like 9:30.
That's why you
and then
said
the
that.
final on Sunday night is not until 8.
Is this Arch Madness weekend?
Next weekend.
Yeah, next weekend. But I know it used to be around this
so
time.
this-
No, because
they're-
there's still another week of the
Yeah.
regular season for the
So
major
what they
conferences.
wanted to do,
I like Wichita State and Creighton in the final.
so they have a
God, well, those were the days.
they have like a handful of national games that are carried by CBS Sports Network for the second straight year, and they wanted to get into the prime slot of right with Arch Madness, but the trade-off was CBS Sports Network will carry semifinals and final if you play on Sunday night, so they're playing at 8.
Sure.
Just
But Arch
listen to
Madness.
us.
So
People are talking about moving that thing.
out of St. Louis.
There's apparently
Where
a
to?
drive in the Missouri Valley to get it to
Ooh.
But
Des
that's why it's Arch
Moines or-
Madness.
or whatever.
What are they going to do next? Move the
Well,
Cardinals
they
out of
said
St. Louis?
I saw something that was like, "Hey, move it to Des Moines, and we still have that bridge with the arch, so you could still call it Arch Madness." If
Tiny
you want
baby
to.
Arch.
I still have a couple of friends that are diehard, longtime season ticket holders for Creighton that still go down to Arch Madness on the weekend.
That's amazing.
They've never quit.
I love
So
that tournament.
They hop on the Southwest flight that leaves like the one late afternoon on Friday.
I would drive
They
now.
go down to St. Louis. They go to the Saturday semifinals. They always go to the Sunday, and then there's a Southwest flight that leaves like at 8
Perfect.
that fly direct right back to Omaha.
What a
But,
plan.
but they have continued even when Creighton, and then they turn around the following weekend and go to New York City. But they have
Wow.
continued to go to Arch Madness because they can't quit it. But it's not like
Why
I
would
asked
you?
them. I asked them a couple years ago, and they're like, "Nah, it's not even close to when Creighton was in the MoVo and Wichita State."
Yeah,
It's
I don't
like
even know who's in that stupid conference anymore.
It changes often.
Drake.
Belmont,
Yeah,
Murray
Bel-
State.
Yeah, Belmont's in it now.
Valparaiso, aren't they in there?
Yes,
Missouri State.
and in Missouri State is moving out.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, Murray
They have
State's
to
in
replace
there.
them.
So
Moving
the OGs,
SEMO?
you got Drake, Bradley, UNI, Illinois State,
Evansville, I
Southern
think.
Illinois, Evansville,
Aces.
Indiana State, Missouri.
Murray
Missouri's-
State. Yeah, I forgot they were in there.
Missouri State is 2-17 in the league this year.
And they're
Yes.
moving up.
Yeah, at one point they should have never fired Paul Lusk.
Good
They were
take.
actually like every 2 or 3 years we're an NCAA tournament team,
They were
but they were
consistent.
competitive.
It's still good to see Drake, Bradley, you and I at the top, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
I still like Wichita State and Creighton.
So
have the
where's
olds.
Missouri State going?
Where are they going? They're going to, I think, the Sun Belt because they're going. They
that
moved
makes
up to
sense.
play
Conference
FBS football.
USA.
Okay, Conference USA.
Ew.
Conference USA. So yeah, they're playing FBS football next year.
But they have a beautiful arena.
Watch
Like the
Nebraska
Hammond
will
Center
schedule 'em.
is a really nice arena.
Yeah.
But they're not as good as they used to be in women's basketball. And Jackie Stiles and Cheryl Burnett were there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you name 4 Conference USA teams?
Now?
This is the last thing we could do. This is the last thing we'll do. Can you name four like bonus points if you get more than 4 Conference
What the
USA
hell's
schools?
in it? Is Liberty in it?
Liberty is in it.
Oh, okay.
One.
Marshall?
Marshall is not in
East
the
Carolina.
Conference
Is UTEP
USA.
Conference USA?
UTEP Conference USA.
Miners, let's go.
Okay.
Is UTSA in CUSA?
UT.
I think they may have moved up actually.
It does not. It does not appear so.
UNT?
North Texas.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it.
Damn.
So here's what I'm looking at. This is for next year.
It's not my dad's CUSA.
FIU,
Oh.
Jacksonville State, Liberty, Louisiana Tech, Middle Tennessee State, New Mexico State, Sam Houston State, UTEP, Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State, and Delaware.
I very much doubt I would have
Wow.
gotten to 4.
The
I could
Blue
only-
Hens?
That's a conference.
Joe
folks.
Flacco?
Delaware's really just shoehorned in there.
Remember when
Hi,
we were so
we're in
caught
Delaware.
up on,
and Missouri State.
remember when there was the discussion about the Big East and Gonzaga and like, oh, that's geographically, you can't
Yeah.
do that.
Well, if you got a conference that's literally everywhere, then
I remember when it was odd that
Can't do
Chicago State was in the WAC.
yeah, the whack. Oh man, we missed the whack.
The real whack, the one they used to
yeah.
show games at 9:00 on
Yeah,
ESPN.
the Hawaii
You want to
WAC.
see one of the best? I got to see if it's still up. Announcing a final of a score. Speaking of the WAC in Chicago State, so last night their women's basketball team won a game, but it was the oddest win tweet.
Chicago State.
Yes.
Let's see if I can find
We do have boots in the ground in Chicago, so we could get to the bottom of it.
Chicago State WBB.
Let's see here. Scroll. Oh, CSU women's basketball team takes home the win tonight against Mercyhurst with 14 leading points.
That's definitely not written
The
by
final-
AI.
The final score was 77-63. So they won by 14, and that's how they described in their tweet.
Totally not AI written. Definitely not.
The
Also,
fir-
who's Mercyhurst?
they're in their conference.
Are they? Dear God.
The first response is,
Do they have football?
AI write this?
yeah, AI definitely.
Do we have AI writing tweets from schools?
Seems like it.
There's clearly no actual social media manager for this Chicago State women's basketball.
So you're saying they're hiring?
It's tough.
Well, they're adding football too.
Oh, then they got.
I don't think they're hiring.
So they don't need. They don't need a play-by-play guy. You mean they're not getting a radio deal?
14 leading.
Darn.
Maybe a YouTube.
At one time, he still may be there. Chris Zorich was the AD at Chicago State.
Oh
Former
yeah,
Notre Dame linebacker.
great Chicago Bear. Yeah,
It's tough.
he
It's
had your hairdo.
tough
Hey,
for those
they'll always
schools.
have a baseball game in Lincoln with their now defunct baseball program.
50 to
53.
3.
Yep,
Great.
it's the day.
No, that was Illinois, Chicago.
no, it was Chicago State.
Chicago State.
I was doing the game.
Yeah. Okay.
That was
All right.
Ken Harvey had a monster day.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Royals great.
All right. You guys have a great
Have a
weekend.
good weekend.
You too.
That is the crossover powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. Friday, start things off next.
It's the Connor Happer Show. Are we sure we want to do this?
Could you, make an announcement that we're ready?
It's the Connor Happer Show on 1620, The Zone.
All right, welcome in. It is Friday on the Connor Happer Show. You're on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Connor Happer, Peter Krenzer with you. Peter, man, you're halfway done. You're more than halfway done at this point. We're going to get you right out of here at about 1:45 today.
And you know what? I feel really honestly fine.
Well, we'll check in with Peter's awake status in an hour or two.
Yeah, ask me in a little bit.
You'll be Popcorn Friday is coming soon. That might give you a little jolt.
You're right.
So,
didn't even think of that.
So we got some things in the works to help Peter Man along today. We appreciate him being here and helping fill the holes.
And it does sound like I don't know if you heard this earlier. Joey's journey back from Detroit.
He is live tweeting it.
Yeah, has he been? I haven't checked. But.
Yes, he's every move that young Joey makes, we're gonna know about it. He's even throwing in some NFL news.
Oh,
it looks like
he can't quit the NFL news even when he's playing his.
22 minutes ago, he said he was back on the plane that he deplaned from.
All right,
we need Joey back.
Let's hope it takes off
this weekend. Hope he enjoyed his time watching his beloved Boston Celtics over the last couple days. All right, on a Friday show, we'll chat with our regulars: Brian Munson, Brian Christopherson, Steve Sipple, all coming up today. That's the lineup, powered by the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Each of those three, by the way, jockeying for wins in the Michael Severe radio guest bracket, so they'll have to bring their A games today. We'll try and tee them up, and they'll let them fly. Elsewhere, well, by the way, it is the final day of February. I know Josh isn't here. Josh usually puts all these things together, does a great job with it. But I have created a list of the top poll questions of the month of February.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll do that today in the noon hour. Elsewhere, we have our first run of SP Plus ratings in college football. Baseball this weekend with Nebraska, Creighton, and Omaha. Ty Robinson at the Combine. Troy Dannon giving us a little bit more on what's going to happen spring game weekend. Nebraska ball tomorrow in a can't lose at PBA. I guess it's a must win and a can't lose are the same thing functionally. So it's really a must win tomorrow for Nebraska basketball hosting Minnesota on a stripe out day at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Creighton heads to Xavier, where both teams, Xavier probably more so here, needs it pretty badly.
Yeah, that one wouldn't hurt Creighton, but Xavier is going to be very desperate.
I'll give you the case for why Creighton needs it too. Their stakes are a little bit lower if you're looking at it from a binary standpoint of make the tournament, miss the tournament. Creighton's in the tournament, but they are still playing for seeding. So they'll need to win as many quality games as they possibly can in order to get to where they want to go.
Tim Kruger, who was in here earlier, bracketologist, has them on the 7 line right now.
Yeah. And if a win, a loss, and I'll say you probably have to kiss our beloved Operation 6 seed goodbye, unless they make a run all the way through the Big East tournament, which is certainly possible. In Omaha, hosting Oral Bob with a chance to wrap up the outright Summit League title Saturday at Baxter Arena, and plenty of other things that we're going to get to today on the show. We'd love to hear from you. 402-951-1620 on the hotline. You can call or text that number, tweet at Happer Show, at Connor Happer on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed. You can email Connor, Josh O at 1620thezone.com. Yeah, you could still send your emails to Josh O at 1620thezone.com. That way he feels a little bit of FOMO while he's sitting at home with his kid. And you can watch us along on YouTube today. Hi, everybody. You can leave a comment like O-Trips does. It says, "Good morning, Happer. Do you hear that?" I don't know, but I hope that it sounds normal. Can anybody on the YouTube confirm that we sound normal? Should be good.
Yeah.
Should be good.
Haven't heard any reports of static.
Okay. I don't know what O-Trips is talking about, but thank you for leaving a comment. And continue to do that throughout the show. You can watch us along on Twitter or at zonetv.live as well. We have, like I said, a lot to get to, setting up a big weekend around here. What?
Trips was referring to March.
Oh, I hear it. This is almost March. It's unbelievable. It's February 28th. Tomorrow is March. There's
kind of wild.
There's 2 home basketball games left for Nebraska. There's 1 home basketball game left for Creighton. There's 1 home basketball game left for UNL. And then we're off to our conference tournaments. And then hopefully we all meet again in the NCAA tournament, whether it be in Dayton or somewhere else.
There's something
around this great country.
There's something so right about the first day of March being a college basketball Saturday.
Yeah, I'm mapping out my next couple weeks and, just looking at all the things that we have. So next week baseball comes into town, and we'll see if weather cooperates with us on that. So there will be baseball at all 3 of our local baseball complexes next weekend, both in Lincoln and then 2 in Omaha. And then the week after that, it's the conference tournaments, the Big East tournament in New York City. The Big Ten tournament is where this Indianapolis.
And I think they have shamefully ditched the wheel. I think the wheel logo is gone.
The pinwheel. Yes, there's probably too many colors.
I think there's too many colors now. Too much happening.
This is what happens when you put too many teams in your stupid conference.
They had to draw the line at 18 different colors and shades.
It's embarrassing. It frankly stinks. And then the weekend after that's the NCAA tournament. So Selection Sunday, March 16th. And we'll be off and running in just a couple weeks here. Cannot wait. I do hear that, and I feel it too.
You feel it.
It is March. All right. We'll be back after this to start things off on a Friday before we talk to our good friend Brian Munson. Coming up on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. sidetracked during the break studying the Royals spring training lineup today. Got Michael Garcia in center field. Michael Massey's in left today. I don't know. Jack Caglianone's at first. I am interested. I'm interested. Moving some infielders to outfield.
Intrigued.
Yeah. That's all. I don't know. I don't think they're on TV today. You just hear it probably.
What do you think? Where's Jack Cag's gonna play all his games this year?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't think anyone knows.
I keep going back to the Royals being very conservative with their top prospects, and so I think it's possible that we see him here in our lovely city at some point this year.
And I would love that.
And potentially 3 hours south of us as well. It's possible. But we'll see as spring goes on. If he's still mashing, I don't know. I don't know what you do with him. Do you send him back knowing that he can help you just immediately and be another bat in your lineup? I mean, probably. This is his first full season in professional baseball. But yes, I am intrigued by Mr. Caglione, who we've gotten to know quite well around here over the last couple years. And the Royals seem to be taking my advice by saying, you are not allowed to pitch anymore. No, thank you. You could just go up there and hit bombs if you want to. That sounds like a really good idea.
If Shohei is no longer allowed to do it, I don't think anyone will be.
Hey, he's pitching this year, I think. He was coming back from Tommy John, so I think they're going to let him pitch. But Cags,
oh yeah, I guess I didn't hear if they were going to take the reins off and let him.
Cags, more hitterish than pitcherish. That's all. Bullet Point Bob emails in to the show. Conan, when you get to Creighton Hoops Talk, can you please help me understand the Xavier game? The net is a terrible way to parse out the quality of basketball team, but the selection committee uses it extensively. The Creighton game is Xavier's Super Bowl and a must-win game if Xavier wants to make the NCAA tournament. But if Xavier beats Creighton, that would be a quad 2 win, and Xavier is still left sitting at 1-8 in quad 1 games. Xavier has had a pitiful resume, win or lose, in that game. Beating Creighton doesn't cover up the fact that 10 of Xavier's wins were against net 144 and higher teams. And the 144 team is DePaul. Gross. One additional question. Why are Creighton fans of the mind that seeding for the Big East tournament is a big deal or winning anything other than a regular season Big East title means anything? Conference tournament championships are pretty meaningless and only serve to bring about tired legs, especially if you think about how many minutes Kalkbrenner already logs each game. I don't know, Bob. Let me tell you, when you present me with basketball game, I want to win it. That's the story of why, and Creighton hasn't won a Big East tournament title either. And so, yeah, that's pretty much the story. I know that the history, I'd be curious to see the research and the data on this. I would imagine anecdotally the history says that if you win one game in your conference tournament, you lose in the semifinal or you lose in the quarterfinal, and then you get to go back home and you're still your future is still secure as it pertains to going to the NCAA tournament. That maybe those teams have a little bit more success given that they've had a little bit more time off and you're not playing 3 games in 3 days or 4 games in 4 days or 5 games in 5 days, or if you're in some of these other conferences, like 9 games in 9 days, like whatever it might be to get to the final of your conference tournament. But once again, you present me with basketball game. You present me with basketball game against a team that I dislike, as Creighton looks like run into Marquette in their second game of the Big East tournament in the semifinal. Like, you want to win it. And if you're running into St. John's in the Big East final and they're all Johnny'd out and they're talking about getting a 3 seed or whatever it is in the NCAA tournament, like, you want to spoil that party. It's less analytically that's why I like conference tournaments, to be honest with you, because they're less analytically driven than anything else that we talk about in the sport. It's just like, all right, we got a tournament here. Let's play 3 games in 3 days. Let's play 4 games in 4 days. Let's go out and try to hang a banner. Let's go out and try and win a conference championship. And it's not necessarily about like what it means for your future, knowing that you do still have to keep the future in mind a little bit. And then to bullet point Bob's point about Xavier, I mean, they beat Marquette on the road. They beat UConn at home. Those are two pretty dang good wins. They beat a bubble team in Wake Forest at home this year. So like that's not a terrible resume. But once again, we're talking about teams that are on the bubble, right? Like these are all the teams that are on the bubble. They have shoddy resumes, and so any chance that you get, if you're Xavier, to play a team like Creighton, who's at near the top of your conference, and they beat you earlier this year and all that stuff, like it's an opportunity to get yourself closer and closer and closer. That's why, like, if you really want to do the quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, quad 4 thing, like, hey, the difference between Creighton being a quad 2 and a quad 1 win for them at home is the matter of what, 4 ranking spots at this point, whatever they are in the net. So, like, I don't know. It'd be a good win for them. So that's why. All right. So, that's that question to bullet point. That's answer to bullet point Bob's question. Quickly here, I want to ask everyone this question based on the thing that happened that I saw that happened in sports last night. Is the best feeling that you could possibly have in sports getting on an unbelievable 3-point shooting heater like Steph Curry? Like, I'm talking about put yourself in the player's shoes. You are in there are equivalents all across sports where you're in the zone, right? If you're in the zone and you're a baseball player, we're talking about it happening over a long stretch of time, right? I am 15 for my last 25. I've been really, really good. That's an incredibly hot streak, but it happens over 6 games or something like that. In basketball, if you're 12 for 16 from 3 and you're Steph Curry and you can't miss, like, that is number one, as a viewer of the sport, one of the best shows that I can imagine. And number two, imagine that feeling like you're walking on water if you're Steph Curry. It's happened so many times in his career now. That has to be one of the best feelings that you could have.
And
I can't miss. I'm Steph Curry.
I simply cannot miss. And it made me think, one of my favorite heat checks that I've ever seen is Kyle Korver.
Yeah, scoring all his points in like 10 seconds.
On the Hawks, yeah. Unfortunately, his foot was on the line for one of them, so I think it was only like 11 points. But he hit essentially 4 straight threes in under a minute of play. And the crowd was absolutely losing it. And it was back when I don't know the guy's name, but it was the Hawks PA that announced the shots as Kyle Korver for 3.
Yeah.
And it was so cool.
I go back and watch.
There's got to be nothing like that.
It's unbelievable, right? Like, I can think of back of some of the great, like, Creighton, avalanches that they've had, and it's all based off of getting really hot from 3. Like the night they played Kansas and Omaha this year, they were just making all of their shots, right?
Yep.
But for an individual player, I was racking my brain last night, and I was thinking about the equivalent of just getting mega hot from 3 and not being able to miss, and what that feeling is against, in every other sport. I don't even know what it might be in football. Like, I'm a defensive end and you can't block me, but that's not being hot. A lot of that is just like physical strength, or the guy, like all the other ones involve somebody else, right? If you're a hitter, the pitcher's still got to pitch to you. If you're a pitcher, you got to throw to the batter.
Yeah.
Like, the batter is still, going to decide a lot of your fate. If you're a basketball player and you got the ball, the guy is defending you, but ultimately all it has to do is go in the basket. And that, maybe a golfer, maybe a golfer just like getting super dialed in from 150 yards out or something like that.
Yeah, there's just not really like a direct comparison.
It's
because like at football, like, you complete so many passes in a row.
Right. Like, is that in the zone, or is that just you
just doing it? Yeah.
Text from the 402. Jake Knapp's 59 at the PGA tournament yesterday, 12 birdies. That's a heater. Yeah, golf would be a comparable, I think, thing to getting on a heater in basketball. Jeff says shorter stretch, but got to be baseball when you're hitting, when you're in the zone, and all of a sudden the ball looks like a beach ball or something like that in a 1-game scenario. Alex and Lincoln says hitting for the cycle and slow pitch softball, a la Jack Mitchell softball experience. So think about those as we go on throughout the show today, and if you have any, we'll bring them up as we go on. But Curry goes for 56 last night.
Yeah.
It's
Another day at the
and
office.
it's very sad how little time we have to watch Steph Curry go off for 56 anymore. It's one of the great joys in sports. All right, we'll be back. Brian Munson will join us on the other side. It's the Connor Happer Show on a Friday on 1620 The Zone.
Ryan Munson.
Hey, long call. Comfy left zoom buster. 63 bang. Z Maui. Alert. Paradise Z Burger Y Wrap on one.
Husker Online on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
That's right. It's Friday. Time to chat with our good friend Ryan Munson of HuskerOnline.com. Joining us now on the hotline. Munson, hello. Happy Friday. How are you?
Oh, it's so good to talk to you on Friday, brother. Like I said, it's kind of everything's on the downhill right now, man.
It's starting to feel like it.
it.
I mean, we're getting some weather. March is tomorrow. It's
oh, dude, don't do. I'm flying up tomorrow. I'll be in the O-Town tomorrow. We do our in-state tour on Sunday, man.
Okay. All right. Well, give us an idea of like this. We're talking about over multiple weeks, right?
Well, so we're condensing it this year just to do it. We're catching everybody in Omaha tomorrow.
Cool.
And with some exception, you know, Sean and Callahan and some other guys have been kind of catching some outliers that can't make it there, or, you know, maybe there was just like a guy or two at a single high school or whatever. But we're going to have, I want to say like between like 13 and 15 high schools show up to see us on Sunday.
Awesome.
It's a wonderful time. I mean, we get such a great opportunity to kind of go, you know, face to face and catch everybody. And I'm looking forward, obviously, to catching all the Millard South guys, which I think, you know, they're like the first ones out the gate for us. So they really set the tone for the entire day. I mean, they got, I think there's 9 or 10 dudes that have got like scholarship offers. I think there's like 8, you know, FBS guys. Or 7 FBS guys, and then there's like an 8th FCS guy, and I think there's some guys that have some that is as talented of a team, honestly, to come out of the state. I think you can kind of go back and go, Millard South now reminds me the most of, like, let's say like Millard North, you know, back in the days, like with Fisher and Shada, like that team right there had a lot of talent, had a lot of guys that went and played college football.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe before that, I'd have to go back maybe even like around my time, like when Lincoln Southeast was king.
Yep.
Like, yeah, maybe like a 93, 94-ish, you know, kind of group, maybe 95-ish, you know, somewhere in there. This is as talented a group of players that I can recall, and they're at least all like within that same kind of breadth, those 3 kind of programs right there. So really excited about getting a chance to see those guys. Please tell me the weather's going to hold off. I'll be up there till Monday afternoon. So,
I think we're looking okay. Like maybe a little chillier than what we have experienced this week, but no, doesn't look like there's any threat of snow or anything like that. So bring a jacket. That's all I'd tell you.
That's awesome. No, I'm looking forward to that for sure. So yeah, it's this is honestly one of the best events for me throughout the entire year is going and seeing all these guys on Sunday.
Hey, their quarterback, Millard South's quarterback, Jet Tamala, he's kind of taken off. His recruitment is kind of taken off right now, right?
Well, I think On3 has done a really good job of evaluating him, and I know that a lot of people are, you know, obviously Nebraska is at where they are at with Dayton. You know, they have Dayton Raiola in the boat, younger brother of Dylan. So Buford starting quarterback. But then you kind of get into like, well, I think Nebraska's been here before, where, you know, they've went outside the state and tried to find a guy, and the in-state kid's blowing up. And, you know, Tamala was recently rated, you know, a 4-star player according to On3. I think he's inside like the top 200, like about 170-ish overall. They really value him as an athlete. Obviously, he's doing really well on the basketball court. He puts up like dunk highlights every single week. And then clearly he's had great seasons, productive seasons going back to his sophomore year. Won the state title last year, going to be the favorite to do it again this year. So he's got some amazing weapons. I think that, you know, a lot of people are seeing him a little bit more individually outside of the system that Millard South has for an offense. And they're seeing him as, you know, finally getting some credit, I think, where it's due, because he is so talented. I think he has great arm talent. I think that athleticism on top of it honestly makes him a really legitimate D1 guy.
What's funny, like I was having this conversation with somebody earlier this week, like, back in the day, there's a 4-star quarterback in the state, and Nebraska's not recruiting him, or not really actively recruiting him, and they have somebody else committed to their class, and obviously, his last name is Raiola, so it changes that picture a little bit. But like, there's usually quite the stir about that, and maybe there's not. Like, you would know better than me. You're in it more. There does not seem to be that kind of stir. It's kind of just assumed by everybody. Yeah, I mean, Nebraska doesn't have the room, and the rosters are a little shorter these days. You never know how it's exactly going to work out, but this is something that would have caused quite the hubbub probably a few years ago.
I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, I think similar to that, you had some coaching changes that I think maybe had some breakdowns in the communication and the evaluation, the continuity from, either this head coach to that head coach, or this OC to that OC, and kind of continuing that thought all the way kind of through. Well, you've seen some similar changes at Nebraska, obviously, within the OCs in the position coaches. So, and I think obviously too, if Dylan stays on his path and he goes to Athens, Dayton maybe not, is still in the picture for Nebraska. And then, how does that kind of change everything else, potentially, as we kind of go back 2 years. So I think Jet's not going to have any problems. I think that he just picked up Missouri, and he is going to end up at a really good spot. If things hopefully, or in some situation, hopefully down the line where maybe the stars align again. I think Nebraska is always about, if it doesn't work out this time, if it comes around again,
there's that
we want
too.
to be in the picture.
Yeah.
So there's always that aspect of it. You can't forget about that.
Hey, you have given us a pretty good rundown here on 3 over the last this morning or last night on the recruiting weekend that Nebraska is throwing together here in June. Feels like they're highlighting a couple big weekends along the way. And this June 20th weekend is going to be a big one, led by the aforementioned Dayton Raiola, it seems.
That's right. So Dayton got back to me last night and confirmed that he will be in Lincoln the weekend of the 20th in June. And that in itself is significant because he's very much taken on this leadership vocal kind of thing, like get in the boat with me and let's get to know one another, and let's kind of build this relationship outside of just like you and the coaches. I want to help recruit you. I want to answer your questions. I want you to go with me to Nebraska. So he's already kind of pitched that to a couple of guys, like leading into the Elite Junior Day. He was the one talking to Ryan Moses, the 4-star athlete out of Carrollton, Georgia. And he was also talking to 3-star tight end Lincoln Watkins out of Port Huron, Michigan. Now, when he was also in Lincoln, he was trying to get Jabari Brady, to also visit with him. But Jabari's going to come in 2 weeks before that. So he's going to be there that first weekend in June, which still has got some benefits there because like CJ Bronow is coming in. So there's another Nebraska commitment. That's going to be a nice weekend too. But the way that the 20th is shaping up, Dezephin Walker has been part of that weekend now for weeks. Like even before we were really even talking about like the Elite Junior Day in February, like I want to say, almost like right after the first year, Walker had confirmed he was coming in that weekend of June 20th for his official visit. Well, then since then, Nebraska has had the Elite Junior Day. Ryan Mosley was part of that. Lincoln Watkins was part of that. Another player that's coming in the 20th, Danny Odom, who is a cornerback from Orlando, Florida. He was also there for the Elite Junior Day. He's coming back on the 20th. And then another familiar face, Camden Jensen, who's a 4-star tight end from Heritage High School out in Littleton, Colorado. The last time he was in Lincoln was for the spring game last April. It just didn't work for him to kind of get over there last fall. So he will be back for an official visit. he's a tremendous athlete as well. So you can kind of, he's a little bit taller than like a Watkins. He's a little different that way. But again, kind of going back to what we have talked about before, like with the changes within like how the tight end looks, it's not a Bear Tenney guy. It's more of a Carter Nelson looking dude, and they're 220, 225 ish. And they're real athletic big guys that really don't fit great into like the true X, but they are really more of a hybrid Y. So Camden Jensen and Lincoln Watkins are two of the best in the nation, and Nebraska has them both coming in that weekend on the 20th as well.
I heard Matt Rule talking this. I mean, he's done a lot of talking this week on podcasts. So he was on McAfee's show yesterday, but the Urban Meyer podcast, and the one that made headlines was the thing about the Tennessee game and all that stuff. But they also asked him, Urban asked him, hey, when Nebraska was in the Big 12, they had they had this fertile recruiting ground in Texas, and he sort of like left it open for him. What's your guys' plan of attack here, sort of? And he mentioned the 500-mile radius and specifically mentioned Kansas City and St. Louis, two cities that we've talked about quite a bit on this show. Yep. And then I matched that up with talking to Phil Simpson this week and him having obviously his hooks in Miami and being at Florida State last year. Like it's still to you, Munson, is it still like this? It's a national recruiting operation, but sort of depending on where your coaches have ties. I mean, the Phil Simpson Miami thing has already been really fruitful. It is the first time around here. And I can only imagine that gets better the second time around now that he's on the full-time kind of staff.
I totally agree with that. I mean, if you go back and you just look at the 12, 17, there's 20-ish or so official visitors that are already kind of confirmed to be coming in the month of June. You've got a quarter of those are coming from Florida. And then, so then you got four, so you got 5 guys coming out of Florida. You got 2 guys coming out of Nebraska. You got like some other local kids, like you got Deacon Schmidt, who's a Colorado guy. You have the aforementioned Camden Jensen, who's a Colorado guy. Then you get like Walker, he's a Missouri guy. So then you get into the radius, right? But then I think what you're saying is like, okay, if you're saying radius, and then obviously Phil Simpson's talking about Florida, that it's still like where you have those kind of ties and where the kind of things are at. I think tight end is a national kind of a search, obviously, although you have Isaac underneath your nose there at Millard South, Hammond, border state. You got Lincoln Watkins in Michigan. You also have like Luke Sorensen out there in Anaheim, California. Obviously they got some ties back to that league now because they went out there and recruited TJ Lateef the year before. So they know about that league out there. And obviously they tried to get into the modern day kids as well, in the past couple of years. But I think that, you're really still, and obviously Coach Raiola, he's doing it nationally too. Like he's got Rex Waterman coming in from Arizona. He has Mata Ali Benjamin coming in from West Valley City, Utah. He's coming in later on in June. So he's kind of more of a national guy. And obviously he's gotten guys out of the islands the last 2 years. So I think that, there are some position guys that do more national coverage. I think there are some positions that you can kind of set up to kind of look at a little bit more and feel like you're going to get some guys a little bit more in the radius. And then I think Simpson does a great job, obviously, because he has all those ties. I'm really going to be very interested to kind of see the first time that like they're getting a defensive lineman to visit from there, or an offensive tackle or something like that, because it seems like, you've gotten the linebackers, you've got the wide receivers, you've gotten the defensive
corners,
backs. When do you start to go ahead and get some guys that are in the trenches a little bit and lining up on that line of scrimmage? So I think that you're absolutely correct. I think that there's some national pockets, and I think that there's still that 500 mile, and there's still a big dependency. I think the other state to watch too is Georgia. They did a lot of offers, not just for this class 2026, but years to come. Earlier this year, 2027, 2028 guys that got offers out of the state of Georgia, there was a bunch of them.
Yeah, interesting. All right, Munson, we will we'll let you go. Have a safe trip up, and we appreciate you doing helping out with that the in-state tour, which is always fantastic to look at every year. And we hope you get some good weather around here this weekend.
We will talk about that next week, and I'll have a summary up on Sunday night.
Excellent.
Catch it up there on Sunday.
See you later. Brian Munson of HuskerOnline.com. So we'll talk to BC in just a second. One of the things I want to mention before we get to him, off the beaten path a little bit. So Troy Danon went on the network last night, and he gave us it made it sound like we'll probably get some more definite details on this next week, but spring game weekend, which has been a recruiting weekend for Nebraska for a long time, but obviously it's surrounding this one thing. So what is it? What is it actually going to look like? Danon says, not trying to break news, but I fully expect next week when we talk about what is the spring game weekend or spring event weekend or whatever we're calling it looks like at the end of April, there'll be a volleyball spring game against another institution. And I fully expect we'll have a sellout in the Devaney for Danny's first game sometime at the end of April. Even though it's an unofficial spring game, we'll have something. So there's that piece of it. He went on to talk about obviously how volleyball, and man, they had a great day yesterday selling out all those tickets for the AVCA First Serve thing. Yesterday, he says, I know we have a soccer game, a spring game against Wyoming that'll be integrated into the weekend. I think while it won't be traditional, we'll still have our football athletes put their skills on display, whether it's through a skills set competition. There will be some flag football, maybe some 7-on-7 type of flag. And here was the interesting part that sort of caught my ear. He's hoping that the Huskers pull off, and it wasn't official, but he mentioned this, so now it's kind of out there. He said, quote, some type of garage sale, if you will, with a lot of equipment that accumulates, and quote, every once in a while, it's good to kind of purge. So I think things are tracking on having something like that. And then they're going to do a whole bunch of donor events and auctions and things like that over the weekend. So basically, it's a Nebraska showcase weekend where they're inviting everyone onto campus and saying, all right, here's a little look inside and here's what we have. Even though it's not the spring game as you traditionally know it, we could still attract people. That garage sale thing had definitely perked my ears up though.
Yeah, we got into it a little bit earlier this morning and just trying to think of all the millions of things that could show up. And Gary raised the point, what have they done with all these like alternate jerseys?
Yep.
Like, are those just sitting around? Like...
So I would imagine there is a lot of old. I mean, they just get piles and piles of stuff that Adidas makes them, kind of every year. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like these game worn uniforms or, like helmets or whatever it might be. Although I'm sure that there will be some of that. But like where my mind went to immediately is people love, and you could buy some of it, but not the full slate. Like the team issued, we're talking about old hoodies, we're talking about old jackets and sweatpants and stuff like that.
Vintage stuff.
That's really cool. I think fans of whatever college team you're a fan of, like, I don't know, this is how I approach it anyway. I want to have as close as I possibly can to the team issued like stuff, like I always tell the story about when I went into a local Husker shop a couple of years ago, and they had just put out the polos, the Husker polos or whatever for the year. But on top of the rack, they had Scott Frost wearing the polo at one of the press conferences. And I talked to the guy, and he was like, yep, if we put that picture on top of there, people see him at the press conference, that's the exact shirt that they want. So I would assume it's a lot of stuff like that from years past. It's a cool idea, and it's an easy way to make money, and it's an easy way to clear your inventory. I can't imagine that they're going to charge that much for the stuff.
And the demand will be there. Yeah,
the demand will absolutely be there. There's no doubt about that. So while it's not a spring game, and the skills competition will be whatever the skills competition is, I like what this is shaping up to be. If there was any consternation about it, which I'm not sure that there was much, but like I like what this is shaping up to be, where it's a showcase weekend. Hopefully they get some good weather. Come on campus. We have all these other teams that you could have close access to. And then we'll open up our doors. He also mentioned tours through the new Osborne Legacy complex. He said ticketed tours. So, you pay whatever, $10-15 and you go through a tour group and you're like, whoa. And then you got the pictures and you can show your friends. And that's cool. That's what
I would definitely pay.
That's
for
what
that.
people want. Like I think they'd be smart to call it like, a look behind the curtain or like inside Nebraska or something like that. I think that's kind of the idea that they're going for. And it sounds really fun, to be honest with you. It's different. It's not the spring game. But it will get support. There's no doubt about that. All right. We will be back. Brian Christopherson will join us on the other side. Nebraska basketball with the big one tomorrow at Pinnacle Bank Arena. A can't lose, a must win, whatever you'd like to call it. That and what he got from the new assistants this week over at the football complex. Back after this with BC on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, Brian. Brian Christopherson.
I gotta take this. It's Hap.
B-Rye, B-Rooney, drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry.
Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7 on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
All right, we're joined now on the hotline by Brian Christopherson, Husker 247 BC. Hello, happy Friday. How are you?
I'm doing swell. How are you?
I'd say swell as well.
Good.
It's basically March. It doesn't, it feels like March in my mind. It starts tomorrow. It'll feel like March in PBA tomorrow too, I bet.
Yeah, we got John Rothstein counting down the hours for us to make sure we're aware. So it is almost March. His last tweet told me that.
It's appreciated, John. Yeah, we're 12 hours away. Hey, so is it fair to call tomorrow a must win, a can't lose? What, is it in that category?
Yeah, I would say so. This would be amongst the games that you really can't afford to drop as far as what it counts in the net and the quad stuff and all that. So I don't think it's going to be an easy game. And I think, yesterday at the press conference and talking to Fred Hoiberg and Raleigh Wooster, that one of the things they stress about the Big Ten is, from top to bottom, there's no game that's a gimme. Everybody has their own challenges that they present, and obviously Minnesota does. And Dawson Garcia, who's averaging about 20 per game and is good on the boards, and so everybody's playing for something in that league because certain teams are trying to make sure they're even in the Big Ten tournament amongst the 15 teams that play in it, like Minnesota. And then obviously Nebraska's playing for March Madness, but Minnesota's only a game behind Nebraska, so that's how tight this thing is. If the Gophers won tomorrow, they'd be ahead of Nebraska in the seeding in the league. So this is like the separation point where not only is Nebraska trying to get in the NCAA tournament, but are you like a 9 or 10 seed in the league, or are you like a 15 seed trying to make sure you're in the tournament in Indianapolis? So all this stuff's going on at the same time.
It's still possible if they go 0-3 in the last 3 games that they miss the tournament. They miss the Big Ten tournament entirely. I learned that this week.
We're just supposed to whisper that. I haven't. Nobody wants to say that out loud, but that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like yesterday, there were some questions about how, like, okay, is Minnesota going to come? What are they going to play for? What do you expect out of them? I'm thinking they're right next to Nebraska in the standings.
What do you mean?
We're all in the same boat here right now. So, it's interesting. It's the Huskers, I think, got to win 2 out of the 3. And then it'd be nice to get one more in Indianapolis, and I think they're in. But first things first, you got to protect the home court tomorrow, and I think kind of get the bad taste out of your mouth from the last couple of games.
As bad as it was offensively on Monday, would you, and now that we're a few days removed for it heading into the next game, is that more of an aberration, or is it a symptom of something, or both?
I mean, it's a glimpse at who they are, unfortunately. Like, we've talked all year about certain guys, like, hoping they could go up a couple notches on offense. And there's been examples here and there where that's happened, where, I think before the injury, Burke, and he was actually starting to, have a couple nice games on that end of the floor. And then he had the injury. So there's always the possibility that now that he knocked the rust off, that, he gives you more on that end. But they're going to need a Sejan as that wild card. I always bring up, but I just think it's
huge,
the difference. He's got to make 3 or 4 shots. And then Juwan Gary, he goes 2 for 13 last game. He's got to be not just a junkyard dog, but that guy who's like 6 of 13 from the field and is finishing around the rim. And so everybody's got to make a couple more that you would have expected. They probably would have normally make that they didn't against Michigan. So that's going to be the difference between winning and losing.
Yep, big one tomorrow at PBA BC. Let's go over to football, where it was good to meet or get familiar with or refamiliarize with some of the new assistants on the Nebraska staff this year. What did you take from that? Not only from the people and sort of getting to know who they are a little bit, but their roles and if you think about it, it's different. They come into a situation where the staff is is really big and all those things. And Nebraska, you're in the 105 era and all those other deals. What'd you take from those guys this week as far as what they might bring to the table?
I thought when Phil Snow was announced that it was an important hire. I think it's even more so after going through it a month or two, kind of hearing interviews and then hearing Phil talk on Wednesday, because I just think he's going to be such a valuable mentor for some coaches on this staff. He's so trusted by Matt Rule. I mean, which is obvious by the fact that he's, running the interview, was part of the interview process for like the special teams coordinator with Mike Eckler and all that. But just when you hear about him, during practices, going around to the different position groups, and probably, one day maybe he's with the D-line, the next day he's with the linebackers. I think that's going to free up John Butler to be more of that overseer. And you know that you have a veteran coach in Phil Snow who's getting, down and dirty and doing the fundamental and technique stuff with players. And he mentioned that's why I came for this job. My best part is being a football coach and being out there and in it. And so anybody who thought this was some sort of like figurehead title or something like that, not at all. So I think his value comes off to me as immense. And then I like the DeKeel Shorts hire from the get-go. I mean, if Dana Holgerson says bring that guy in, just like he's the one guy I want on the staff for sure to add, I think that tells you a lot. He's going to know what Dana wants more than anybody. And I think you have to be impressed early on with the fact that obviously he had the connection with Dane Key and Hartley Gilmore, but also he gets an Isaiah Hunter. And so, he's off to a really good start, I think, also from locating personnel he wants and actually getting them here in the roster.
I don't think you can understate the Phil Snow. The way I view it, BC, he is an arm of Matt Rule. He's like a Matt Rule kind of proxy, I guess, in that regard. As Rule moves himself, and this probably only happens because Rule kind of moves himself into a little bit more of a CEO role, and like I said, all those things are changing around him. That's a significant person to have in that locker room right now.
A couple major things happened. I think Rule needs to be that CEO, and also the fact that you can send whatever 10 assistant coaches, or staffers on the road recruiting. And Phil Snow mentioned, this was him talking. He's like, I'm getting up there a little bit in age. And, a couple years ago when sort of the opportunity to maybe be the DC came up, he didn't know if, he'd fit the bill for all that was required at that point. But now, I mean, you can send Phil Simpson, you can send Jamar Mosey on the road. And certain guys can have their niche that they excel at, and they don't have to check every box. And so I think the timing worked really well for Rule in being able to put a staff where he can accentuate the skill sets of different guys in different ways.
No doubt about it. And then what you said about Shorts, we probably are guilty of doing this a little bit too much. He gets up at the first press conference, and you're like, oh, okay. I kind of like this guy, but he's got a bit of a track record. He's a young guy, so still growing. And then obviously he has the stamp of approval from Dana Holgerson. That feels like a really good situation to me. They gotta do it and prove it. And they feel like they have some guys in there that can do it, but I feel like they're in pretty good hands with DeKeel Shorts right now.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I'm a big Dana believer. I think I'm not in small company there, but I just believe in his offensive mind. And if he thinks someone is sort of the perfect fit for a certain position in his offense and teaching it, then I kind of nod my head to it at this point. So, he's a guy that not only played for Dana, but he would, I think Dana saw early on that he had good coaching material within him, and in a way kind of recruited him into that life. And it makes sense to me. So again, I stress the fact that Dane Key and Gilmore came over for Kentucky, and obviously Nebraska has resources and money to put forward for those guys. But I also think he wouldn't be here if he didn't think he was going to get really good coaching from DeKeel Shorts and believed in him.
Is Ja'Cory Barney one of the least talked about? I'm trying to think of a guy who had a more, impactful freshman season that we just didn't talk about, this much going into the next season. If all the changes don't happen and Nebraska kind of runs it back, he's one of the gleaming beacons of hope, I think, right now. But they changed the room around him. They changed the coach. It's a generally new offensive coordinator. I don't feel like Ja'Cory Barney gets mentioned in our conversations this offseason. And now the situation you put him in seems to be, with another year advanced in the Holgorsen and Raiola offense, and a new coach. I don't know. I feel like he's kind of poised to take off even more.
Maybe that's a good thing, though. We're not doing the thing where we're just going over and over about the guy who just had his freshman year, and he has some competition in that room, and guys are going to have to fight like heck, I think, to be a part of the top 4 or 5. I mean, I would add this, like every off season, I do this. I talk myself into the wide receivers, this time of year where it's like, man, they can have 8, 9, 10 guys I could see out there. And then you get to November in some of these years, and it's like you feel like there's 2 or 3 guys maybe they can turn to. Like I remember Billy Kemp was like hobbling around trying to play in November a couple of years ago, or they wouldn't even have like 3 guys that you felt okay about on the field. And so you got to be a little bit careful with the receivers, because we've done this annually where we feel like that the depth is really there this time. We mean it. We're telling you the truth, honestly. And then it's not there. So but Ja'Cory's got to get after it and make sure he's part of the top 3 or 4, because I do think it's going to be an elbows out competition. And I do think Dane Key, having experience and having been there, done that, is going to be pretty valuable for that room too.
Hey, how about at the combine yesterday? Not so big ass Ty Robinson down to 288, but running a 4.83 40 and testing out pretty well at everything else as well. Like, he probably made himself some pretty good coin yesterday at the combine.
Man, I'm so happy for Ty. You know that I'm kind of an old soul with those guys, and I like the old school guys that stick with the program for 5 or 6 years and played in a bowl game. And he's just being rewarded for his path. And so it was wonderful to see him run that time. Posted really well in everything he did, like his 10-yard and his agility, all that stuff was great. So he made himself some money, and I think he improved his draft stock, no question.
All right, BC, we'll let you go. Enjoy tomorrow at PBA, the weekend, the weather, and all the things in between. Talk to you later.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Ryan Christopherson, Husker 247. You could check out all his stuff there. He had a good write up on all the things that Ty Robinson did yesterday. So 6'5", 288, 32 and a quarter inch arms with the hand size of 10 inches. He had a 4.8 340, a 1.71 10-yard split. He also ran another 40 at 4.89, but he gets the 4.83 on the official record book. The broad jump, 9 feet 11 inches with a vertical of 33 and a half. Charles Davis on the NFL Network said, this young man, Ty Robinson, has been exceptional throughout today. Terrific, hard-nosed effort player at Nebraska. You know what else he is? Athletic as hell. Rule talked about him throughout the year and obviously tried to, he was trying to do the thing like, hey, I don't know why this guy isn't a first-round draft pick. And he's not going to be a first-round draft pick, but that's going to age pretty well, because one of the things that he wanted to do is like, hey, look, we have to have him like big and battling in the trenches, and then all of a sudden you get a label on you. You're the guy who kind of takes up space and all these things. And a lot of times the thing that comes with that is, well, is he athletic enough? Can he move? And things like that. And Ty slimmed down a little bit, and all of a sudden he's showing off some versatility as well, and that's going to help for a guy of his caliber heading into the NFL draft. And the combine goes on throughout the weekend. All right, we'll be back. Peterman has the odd news. It is on the menu next on 1620 The Zone.
And now we've reached the point in the show where Josh Odson reads the peculiar, the bizarre, the comical, the odd news with Odd Son. Odd news, Odd Son. See what we did there? The odd news with Oddson.
All right, it is time for the odd news as Peter's found himself some food. I'm glad, man. You gotta if you need to walk around, you need to go outside and have a smoke or something like that. You feel free.
Check on the status of the mountain out there.
I got enough buttons over here. I should be able to do it. Yeah, let's check.
Yeah, is any noticeable changes?
Oh, it's pretty much gone.
It's dissipating. Okay, so it looks like Bishop's gonna hit it on the head.
I think, unless you count whatever gravel mess pile is there, it's messy.
Where it's just pure dirt.
And there might be still a little bit of snow technically in there. But yeah, it's gone. It's gone. So
didn't even make it 2 weeks.
Yeah. John nailed it. It's today. Today is the day. John Bishop wins, as much as it pains me to say.
John, unlike Puxatawny Phil, said no more winter.
Yeah, John nailed it. All right, what do we got today, Peter, man?
Our first piece of odd news takes us to the golf course.
Okay.
There's a PGA event this weekend, and the irony of this is that the person involved in this, Billy Horschel, attended Florida, home of the Gators, and a gator made its way onto the course.
I feel like this happens maybe 3 times a year now. There is a golfer who has to fend off an alligator with his golf club.
I would suggest perhaps maybe we don't play in Florida for a little while. I don't know.
I mean, I guess in February, it's one of the few places that you can go, I suppose.
But maybe we do a once-over, see if there's gators just hanging around.
Well, and a lot of the golfers are from Florida, too. And so they seem to be relatively comfortable with, it's just an alligator. Okay, if it comes too close to me, I'll try to poke it away with my golf club.
And that is exactly what he did. He said, I am not afraid of gators. Listen, I tell most people, they're more afraid of you. The majority of the time, they're only going to come after you during mating season.
People always say that, and I can't. How am I supposed to know by looking at the angry gator that he's scared of me, or that they're not in mating season?
Oh, you don't know a gator's mating by their physical appearance? Wow.
No.
That is so on you.
I'm sorry. I have no idea. I have no idea. So these guys let him get, in my opinion, uncomfortably close. And no, we don't have that much. We don't have that much. That many videos of people getting physically eaten by alligators or anything like that. So it's not, you don't have that to look back on. But I don't know, man. He looks like he'd kill you. He's an angry looking son of a gun.
I feel like there is no scenario where a gator would like to be around a human, but that's just me.
Well, then they should stay in their lakes.
Stay in your water.
Stay in the water. You alligators don't need to hang out on the grass.
My favorite quote that he gave was, he was going nowhere good. Yeah,
clearly. Yeah.
Out of the water onto the golf course, around the people. Nowhere good.
I wouldn't be able to swing my golf club comfortably if there was an alligator in my presence, in my vision. It's the same thing. Maybe you're playing in the mountains or something like that, and there's a bear out there. It's I can't focus on this completely if there's a bear near me or if there's an alligator near me. And so credit to Billy Horschel. He just took care of the problem himself.
Yeah. A little DIY.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to do it, but good on him.
Said he was going to wonder if the officer would use a taser. He said a golf club did the trick just fine. Yeah, maybe we
chase him back into the water.
Yeah, maybe we don't tase the gator.
No, that
seems like an escalation.
That would make him more
angry. Next thing, how because I guess I don't know the age range that this would apply to. I don't know the exact
hats. Oh.
I don't know the exact science of this. People love Shrek.
People love Shrek is
but I don't know,
fair statement. Yes.
I don't know where the specific age cutoff is of people who are indifferent about Shrek.
Okay, good question. So Shrek originally came out April 22nd, 2001.
Because I was pretty young.
I would have been about. I would have just turned, or would have. I would have about to been 9.
So like you watched them growing up.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think that I really cared about or for Shrek 2. And then there was a third, and by that time I was in high school.
And then a fourth.
And then there was a fourth, and I don't know when that happened. And then apparently now there will be a fifth.
There will be.
And that's the odd news story.
And yeah, specifically the redesign.
Yeah, so Shrek.
There was a whole hubbubaloo because they released the first teaser
really?
yesterday.
Let's see.
Which basically just announced that Zendaya was joining, because they already announced that everyone was coming back. Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, and Cameron Diaz. But then they added Zendaya. That was pretty much the whole point.
Is Zendaya
is playing
ogre?
Shrek's daughter.
Oh, okay.
But they showed the first look at the animation, and people are not happy. A vast majority.
What's different about it?
They think they, for lack of a better term, Pixar'd it, where they made them look.
The Shrek doesn't look any different.
Okay, and that's where I was going with this.
I'm gonna put this on the YouTube here in a second, so you guys can see.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a way to show a visual, and that's where I was kind of going with this. I watch a lot of movies. I've seen all the Shrek movies. I didn't really notice a difference. I really didn't think it was that noticeable.
I gotta save it as
maybe I'm just not seeing what other people are seeing, but
I don't think that this is just a you thing, but I don't know. Maybe people are more particular about their Shreks than I am. I clearly am not that particular about the way my Shrek looks.
Like I did see at one point someone said, "Why do they look older?" And then Community noted it, and it said they aged. So
it's probably a good reason. Yeah. Okay. Let me pull up the YouTube here so you guys can see this.
Yeah, we'll see what people think.
Here he comes. We're getting Shrek in. Shrek has joined the chat. Here's new Shrek. New Shrek is on the bottom. Old Shrek is on the top.
I don't
If you're
know.
watching along with this on YouTube,
animation has advanced.
He's less green and he's less defined, maybe,
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't really care.
I don't think I do either. It's been 25 years that animation has advanced.
Okay, yeah. By the way, so the official order of Shreks here. So Shrek came out 2001, Shrek 2 04, Shrek the Third 07, Shrek Forever After 2010. And Shrek 5 will be coming out in 2026. Next year. Is there a plot line for this yet? Doesn't look like it.
It doesn't seem that way. But I did see some people saying if they create enough of an outrage like the Sonic people did when Sonic needed to be reanimated, maybe they could use their collective power.
I don't have a problem with this.
Sonic, I will admit, was egregiously bad. Like it was so bad that I cannot believe that they thought it looked good.
Oh.
This, I don't care.
Okay.
This seems fine.
And
we'll end on your some news about your favorite new show,
Severance.
Oh no, Running Point.
Oh. Did you watch it last night? Did you watch it last night?
I elected to watch Severance instead.
So my wife asked me, she was like, "Do you want to watch this Running Point show?" Because we had seen the trailer, and she was like, "Hey, look, basketball." And she knows my distaste toward Kate Hudson. And then basketball shows or movies that aren't really basketball shows or movies. And she was like, "Hey, so do you want me to wait and watch this first episode of this show with you?" And I was like, I was kind of mean. I kind of laughed and I was like, "No, I'm not going to be watching this show." I don't know if you thought that I was serious when we were talking about this, but I'm not watching this show. If you want to come down and hang out with me, I'm watching Severance at 8:00. That's the story. And we did. It was great.
A great episode. But yeah, I saw this today and I was like, okay, we have to include this since we brought it up yesterday. There was a trademark infringement suit issued towards Netflix and the show from Pepperdine.
Sure.
Because apparently the team in the show is called the Waves.
The Waves, yeah.
And they use pretty similar color scheme. No logos or anything, but
that would be classic
Pepperdine?
Netflix show to just make a show and not get any of the proper clearances.
How hard would it have been to just think of a different name of a school not in California?
Could have been anything.
With a different color scheme than the team that you are directly referencing.
Once again, this is how much they care about basketball. 0%.
0%.
All right.
But they filed that lawsuit and
I hope they win.
They actually did not win.
Sad.
The district judge said it does not explicitly mislead consumers.
I would have liked it if Pepperdine had won and that show would have lost.
Turning Point and Netflix will not be going bankrupt and will probably make a season 2.
All right, Peter, thanks. That is the odd news. Plenty to come in the noon hour. Sipple will stop by. Our top poll questions for the month of February are coming up as well. More to come on a Friday edition of the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. we make our way through the stages of the offseason in college football and spend a couple minutes on this. Today's one of the notable days. The first SP Plus ratings have dropped from Bill Connolly on ESPN. And I guess this is the first time I don't know how long these have been out, but I recently checked, so maybe this is the first day. I'm also looking at win totals on team win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook right now. Nebraska, could have predicted this a mile away. Team win total, 7.5. 7.5 with the juice on the under, so minus 122. Or I'm sorry, on the over. So got to pay a little more to get the money back that you're looking for over 7.5 wins. Under 7.5 wins is plus 100. I know some people out there who are like, I get plus money on the under 7.5. Sign me up right now. I think Nebraska's just going to be at 7.5 for a win total for the rest of eternity until they, until they do something like dramatically better or worse than 6 or 7 wins, 5, 6 or 7 wins in a season. Looking elsewhere in the Big Ten, Illinois is a really hot, that could be the Indiana of this year. They have a little bit of a light schedule. They got some guys coming back. People like Bielema. Their total also 7.5 with a very similar spread on where the juice lies as well. How about college football playoff participant from a year ago, or I guess from 2 months ago? Indiana. Win total 8.5 on the Hoosiers right now. You can get plus money on the over 8.5, which I don't know anybody in their right mind who thinks Indiana's going to win 9 games again this year, but that's just me. How about our friends to the east in Iowa City? Iowa, 7.5. Plus 138 on the over, though. Nebraska's minus 122 on the over. So Vegas is a little bit warmer on Nebraska than they are Iowa at this moment. Some other notables in the Big Ten. Michigan, 8.5. Michigan State, 5.5. Minnesota, 6.5. Ohio State, 10.5. Right? These are regular season wins. If you go to the playoff or you go to whatever the Big Ten championship game is, these do not count. So 12 regular season games. Oregon, 10.5. Penn State, 10.5. Let's see. USC, 7.5. Wisconsin, 5.5.
Ooh.
Let's look at a couple more. Purdue, 3.5. Rutgers, 5.5. So basically, how it works here is you have tiers in the Big Ten. You have your 10.5 win total teams, national championship contenders, Ohio State, Oregon, or at least teams that figure to be in that conversation. Then you have your contending tier. Michigan's in there. I think you put Indiana up there at this point, even though I most certainly would not. And then you have your these are going to be teams that are fighting for the college football playoff type of deals. The 7.5 win group. In that group, how many teams did I just mention that their win total is 7.5 in the Big Ten? Illinois, 1. Iowa, 2. Nebraska, 3. Rutgers is 5.5. UCLA is 4.5. USC is 7.5. USC and Washington 7.5. That's 5 Big Ten teams where their totals are sitting right at 7.5 at this moment. All right, SP Plus, ladies and gentlemen, folks, it's here, and I'm very excited that it's here. Bill Connolly writes, "We're less than 6 months from the start of the 2025 college football season. I know because Josh Peterson is already counting down. While the rhythm of the offseason has changed significantly in recent years, and we know rosters still won't be set until after the spring transfer window has closed, it's almost never too early to preview and project the coming season as best we can. We've completed the first step with the returning production ratings that we talked about earlier in the week. Now it's time for step number 2. SP Plus projections are based on 3 primary factors, weighted by their predictiveness. Number 1, returning production. It is the most predictive of the measures that is used in to create SP Plus. Recent recruiting, recent history. So basically over I believe it's like a 5-year rolling average of what your history looks like and what your recent recruiting looks like. So drum roll, please. Nebraska comes in the initial SP Plus ratings as number 34 in the country. So once again, it's the same thing here. You can pretty much peg Nebraska until they do something drastically better or drastically worse in a season, right? Until they completely bottom out, or if they actually jump up and make the college football playoff or win 9-10 games, something like that. You can pretty much peg them for the beginning of the season being a mid-30s team, a 5th or 6th Big Ten team, and their win total being 7.5 at this point. As you look at the rest of the Big Ten, so the tier list is kind of the same as what I just described as it pertains to the win totals. Ohio State comes in ranked number 1 with the 6th best offense and the 2nd best defense in the country. Penn State at number 3. Oregon at number 6. That's a strong top of the Big Ten. Then Michigan comes in at 13. That's the 4th Big Ten team. Iowa comes in at 21. That's the 5th. Indiana comes in at 24. That's the 6th. Illinois at 25. That's the 7th. And USC at 30. That's the 8th. Nebraska at 34th. That's the 9th, which is still middle of the pack as it pertains to the Big Ten. May I remind people. Minnesota's right in Nebraska's region. Washington's right in Nebraska's region. USC, like I said, is right before them. Wisconsin is a little bit further down this year. And I'm trying to look at the lowest Big Ten team that I could find. UCLA 69, Michigan State 76, Northwestern 87. Where might Purdue be? Purdue 116. Holy smokes.
Holy smokes.
And may I remind you, there are 136 FBS teams this year. 116th is bad.
Do we have a way to see who's 136?
We do. Would you like to? I'll give you a conference.
Okay.
The MAC. This team is in the MAC.
Ooh, the MAC.
The MAC is like this moving, living, breathing thing to me. I never know who the best team in the MAC is.
Yeah,
I never know who the worst team in the MAC is.
I feel like the championship game is 2 different teams every year.
Yeah, there's not been like a power in the MAC.
Let's see. Who was? I remember Kent State was really bad last year. Is it Kent State?
You got it. Kent
Okay.
State, the
All right.
worst SP Plus team in the country. The 135th ranked offense, the 133rd ranked defense, and the 122nd ranked special teams.
Oh, yes. Okay, I just looked it up. They did not win 1 game last year.
Ouch.
That would contribute to that.
Matt Rule sitting there in Lincoln thinking, how do we get these guys on the schedule? We need wins, right? We need to get to the college football playoff.
All right, let's cancel Northern Iowa and let's get Kent State.
That's what I'm talking about. So inside Nebraska's rankings, Nebraska, the 12th rated defense on SP Plus, which once again, I mean, these are early rankings, and a lot of it is based on, returning production and recent history. The recent history suggests that Nebraska will have a really good defense, and I think you're banking on that a little bit. I don't think, as I look at the rankings of each of the individual units, so Nebraska's 89 on offense, 12 on defense, and 119 on special teams. Honestly, I don't think any of those numbers will even be in the ballpark of where they end up being this year. Like, as I start to think about what Nebraska will be coming up this fall, I think the defense takes a mild to moderate step back as far as its production level. I think the offense takes a big step forward. Now, I don't know if it's like a top 25 offense, but it's probably a top 50 offense in my mind. And I think special teams takes a big jump forward. And we talked about it when they hired Eckler a couple weeks ago. I just think like they can flip that switch quickly. And now there's optimism that they could do so, given that they brought in one of the better guys at actually accomplishing that across the country. But Nebraska's special teams, based on its recent history and based on its returning production on their special teams, 119th. They're getting a new punter. They're getting a new long snapper, which is good this year. And they have recently just sucked at special teams. If Nebraska doesn't have Nebraska needs to have a top 50 special teams unit this year. So you can see how this number might morph a little bit. And maybe it ends up where Nebraska is one of the, 25, 30 best teams in the country overall again. But I think you're going to do it in a little bit of a different way than you've done it in the past. They still want to have a good defense, but no doubt they need to have a much better offense in 2025. And there's no doubt that they need to have a lot better special teams. And honestly, I kind of think that they will. So those are your initial SP plus rankings for 2025 conference wise. SEC is the best conference, followed by the Big Ten. And then there's a pretty big gap actually between the SEC and the Big Ten. Then the Big 12, ACC, Sun Belt, AAC, Mountain West Conference USA. And sadly, Kent State is dragging the MAC into the hole with them. They are the worst SP plus conference in college football. Connolly writes some buy teams and some sell teams, right? So the SP plus is it. He says it tends to do a better job of finding teams that are overrated than those that are underrated. Last February, he says, I listed 5 teams in the sell section, and they went a combined 43 and 22 in 2023, all the way down to 24 and 37 in 2024. So you look at teams that won a bunch of close games last year, and you look at teams that sort of overperformed, and the math says that they should come back to the medium a little bit here. And both Indiana and Illinois are sell teams, according to Bill Connolly. He says, after going 11-2 and securing a well-earned spot in the playoff, Indiana landed 17th on the way too early preseason top 25 as made by Mark Schleybaugh. Illinois, meanwhile, went 10-3, ranks 3rd in returning production, and they're 13th in that same poll. But SP Plus ranks these teams 24th and 25th, respectively. The Hoosiers are lower because they're just outside the top 40 in returning production and have no strong recent history on which to lean. The Illini, meanwhile, went 5-1 in one-score games. They won 2 games in overtime. They won 1 with a long touchdown in the closing seconds and finished that was against Purdue, by the way, and finished 2024 ranked. Well, maybe they played in overtime against Purdue. And finished the 2024 ranked in the 30s in SP Plus. They project to improve, but the aforementioned fickle god of close games might render their record worse. The inverse, of course, of this argument is one that we have been using for, it feels like decades upon decades upon decades at Nebraska, which is, well, if you play in all these close games and you lose a bunch of them in one year, you are due for a turnaround the next year. The math gods will be on your side. Well, as we've experienced, that has not always been the case. Nebraska's just generally been bad at losing one. They've just lost a lot of one-score games all the year, so you can't necessarily depend on the math on them coming back. They're going to have to pull themselves out of this hole themselves. And then some bye teams: Alabama, Michigan, last year's fallen royalty. The SEC's upper middle class, like Missouri, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. And Iowa. Iowa was a team last year who lost 3 games by a combined 7 points and finished 16th in the SP Plus last year. And there's an expectation that Iowa is one of the more, even though they lose a lot on the defensive side of the ball, they are one of the more plug and play defensive units, across the country. You could just really depend on them being good. So if they lose a big chunk of production, and if they're coming off of a season in which they lost a bunch of one-score games, they're an obvious progression candidate. And according to Bill Connolly, he agrees with that notion. So those are a couple of the teams that have been highlighted early on in this thing. Quickly before we talk to Sipple here, or at least we call Sipple, and we'll see if he answers the phone. Netflix. How do you feel about sports on Netflix?
Well, I guess it's kind of hit or miss because I for the most part have enjoyed their dip into the live sports realm. I didn't necessarily care about the event itself, the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson thing.
Oh, and
that was
bad.
A disaster.
Complete disaster. The NFL playoff game that they had this year was generally reachable. And fine.
The NFL, I didn't really notice any issues, and they have the rights to Monday Night Raw now, which is a weekly thing.
So their whole,
and that hasn't had any issues.
Netflix's whole bit, and they'll try to. It appears as if they're going to try and do a little bit more of what you just explained, some of the weekly stuff, and just continue to dip their toe into the water. But what it has been before is big event stuff, like the whatever that stupid fight was, Jake Paul and who
Tyson.
Mike Tyson, stupid stuff like that, right? Big boxing events, big football, NFL football games, in the playoffs. It's been a big event place, maybe more than anything. So the reason I bring this up is because ESPN and Major League Baseball have recently severed ties, basically.
Divorced.
And Major League Baseball has a package of high-profile baseball games like Sunday Night Baseball and like the early portions of the MLB playoffs, the wild card round of the MLB playoffs, that they need to find a home for in the immediate. According to I was reading from, and then John Orand of Puck once again was on top of this. Apparently, Major League Baseball is courting Amazon and Netflix as potential partners for these games. And while, here's what Awful Announcing writes, and while that might be a logical step for the league, it may not align with Netflix strategic goals given the platform's focus on high-profile event-driven content. CNBC reported earlier this week that Netflix is primarily drawn to sports that feature major tentpole events rather than regular season games that tend to get lost in the shovel of another sporting event. The platform prefers high-impact moments that could stand out rather than the repetitive nature of games that don't generate the same level of urgency or excitement. So my follow-up here is, why in the world would they take baseball games? The most repetitive and the most repetitive lost in the shuffle sport that we could possibly find. This sounds like the biggest disaster I've ever heard of. You know how many people would watch Sunday Night Baseball on Netflix? First of all, in order to answer that question, you would need to ask how many people regularly watch Sunday Night Baseball while it's on ESPN?
Which is
not many.
Not many,
Peter. So are you going out of your way to go to Netflix for a Sunday Night Baseball game? No, you are most certainly not, especially if you are, unless you're a fan of the team, right? But that's not what they're after.
I think it would definitely be worth it on Netflix's part to see what they could do with the wild card round.
Well, but here's the thing.
The weekly Sunday night game, I don't see how they're going to be able to sell that to almost anyone.
But Netflix, like, anything can theoretically work for Netflix because they can pay for anything.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what's so attractive to these sports conglomerate, these leagues now, is that Netflix is coming in, and obviously, the NFL can sell it as, oh, well, we're diversifying our portfolio, right? We're putting all these games on other channels. Cool. It exposes us to a new audience, which it doesn't, by the way. It's still the same people watching the games. It's not exposing you to a new audience, and it's not going to be any more or less. It's just that you have a loyal fan base and people will follow the games. But the reason that they're able to get in on this stuff, the reason why Netflix has been able to get a seat at the table and Amazon has been able to get a seat at the table is because they're like doubling and tripling regular bids for these things.
Yeah.
And so they can afford to do it. And so why not? They'll find out that nobody will watch it. But if MLB wants a big payday, which anybody does, this might be a place where they could end up. Just know that the ratings are going to be horrendous. This sounds like a potential disaster by Rob Manfred. Rob Manfred needed a new disaster after
I haven't had a disaster in a while.
Seriously, he kind of did a good thing by letting it go with ESPN, but because ESPN clearly didn't care about baseball.
Yeah, no, they did not.
So
their coverage has been bad.
That's okay, but I don't think Netflix is the answer here. I really don't. So I look forward to however that gets messed up going forward.
Yeah, I don't think that's the answer, but unfortunately, I don't really have any other ideas.
Yeah,
it's kind of no man's land territory.
Yeah. I mean, ESPN, from the sense that it's available to basically everybody, is a good spot. But you do want to have a good partner as well, and have them actually care about the sport that they're showcasing on their network.
I suppose you could look into expanding the partnership with either Fox or TBS, Turner Sports, because I enjoy the coverage on those sides.
I do too. But once again, remember that a lot of the deal now, a lot of the move here is, after the NFL has done it, is diversifying.
Yeah.
Right. We have to get it on more things and available to more people. Which maybe that's a thing, guys. And by guys, I mean Rob Manfred or whoever. Maybe that's a thing that's only applicable to the NFL, which has only so many games, and they're almost all appointment viewing, right? Especially your Thursday night and your Monday night and your Sunday night. Like those are appointment viewing football games. Everybody in the country's watching them. Baseball, it's hard to come up with an appointment viewing baseball game, even in the playoffs, because it's still a best of 3 in the wild card round. It's still a best of 5 in the divisional round, which the ESPN doesn't have. So it doesn't make much sense, I think, for either side. Maybe O-Trip's right side. Maybe you could explore CBS or NBC, but I doubt they'd be interested in baseball. There's only so many places to go for it. So that's the other side of this. Wow, it's interesting that MLB is out on ESPN and that ESPN's out on MLB, and we're okay with them severing that tie. Severance, no pun intended.
Severance.
You also got to find a place to put it. And all these TV organizations have different ideas of what it's going to look like going forward. All right, let's take a break here. Sipple, we'll call him. We'll see if he answers during the break. We will return here on Friday on 1620 The Zone. great things about college baseball is that you just hear something that you've never heard before. Following along with Kendall Rogers, who's covering Mississippi State and Rice today. I think this is at the Houston Astros ballpark. But this caught my eye. Hiram Bocachica hit a home run, a screaming liner down the left field line for a 2-run home run to get Rice back in the ball game. 3-2. They trail Mississippi State, but I really enjoyed. I hope they make the College World Series. That way I could do a report on Hiram Bocachica.
Great name.
That would be awesome. So Sipple, we called, and there was nothing happening. But he did just favorite our tweet.
Oh.
So maybe that's a secret message.
Like, hey, I'm here. Just hang tight.
Maybe that's a message to us saying, okay, I'm. It's almost like he's his innie self, and he's trying to send a message to his outie self.
Sip has been sipped.
Or something like that. All right, so
severed sip.
We'll hang tight on that one. Usually, what happens is in about 5 minutes, he will text me and he'll say, "Hey, I'm ready to go now." Maybe we should just permanently move the interview back to 12:45 or 1 o'clock, which is definitely doable. But whatever. All right, so put together the list, the top poll questions of the month of February. We are on the final day of February. A couple superlatives, honorable mentions. We did have a tie this month.
Oh,
we had an exact tie this month. Well, now Sipple said I can go now if you're ready. I'll just tell him we'll call him in 10 minutes.
Should work.
All right. So we did have a tie this month. Is there such thing as a half cold? Coincidentally enough, was the poll question. Is there such thing as a half cold? Ended exactly at 50-50. Yes, no. All right. Sipple's going to join us in 10 minutes. So let's get through this. A couple honorable mentions here before we get to the top 5 proper. Would you, this was February 5th, would you go through the work of stealing 100,000 eggs for $40,000? 86% said no. Would Connor Happer be the kind of guy who likes a turnkey ignition? That happened earlier this week. 86.6% said yes. Did you know Truth Magnum spilled his nachos? That was Monday. 82% said no. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Would Hannah Cavender date a man driving a Hyundai Tucson? That was the 20th of February. 84% said no. Does your Uncle Butch have takes? That was on Valentine's Day. 64% said yes. And I think this was Josh's favorite. Are superintendent's glory hounds? That was February 12th. We had a good day on February 12th. 87% said yes. All right. Without further ado, here is the top 5. Peter, I can hit it over here. Let's do it.
God, come on. Take forever.
Number 5.
Top 5 poll questions of the month of February. Number 5. Can you read? And it's not that the poll question itself is funny. This happened on February 3rd. It's the response that makes it that gets this poll question onto the top 5. To the question, can you read? Voters responded 67% yes. Only 67% said yes to can you read, which I think that gives us a pretty good idea of our troll rate.
Makes me think of the Nick Miller quote in New Girl. Great show, by the way. I'm not convinced I know how to read. I've just memorized a lot of words.
Maybe that's what you think has happened to you. Poll question number 4.
Number 4.
Is Godzilla a weeb? Happened on February 12th. I learned that day what that was. 52.5% said yes to that poll question. We've since learned that that our friend young Nick enjoys Japanese culture and things like that as well. All right, poll question number 3.
3. Combination of 3 and 5.
Number 3.
This was surrounding the events of Red Panda coming to Omaha. Is it a lonely place on top of a unicycle?
It's lonely at the top.
This is February 12th. 86% said yes, it is indeed a lonely place on top of a unicycle. Poll question number 2.
Here comes 2.
Number 2.
February 13th. We got hot like that week. February 10th,
Good
11th,
week.
12th, 13th. We kind of got hot that week. February 13th. Should we Thanos group chats? Snap half of all group chats. I think it'd be pretty good.
I'm in favor.
Frankly, you could snap all of them if you want to. Should we Thanos group chats? 58% said yes.
All right. Good. Majority think yes.
Absolutely. And finally, the number 1 poll question of the month of February.
Make it so, number 1.
Number 1.
Number 1 came from, I believe that was Monday of this week. Indeed. Monday of this week. So two of the poll questions that I have mentioned in this segment have come from Monday of this week, including the Truth Magnum Nachos one. Are your takes your currency? The number 1 poll question of the month, as graded by me. Now, I'd be curious if Josh did this, what order he would have these in, or if he which one he would have number 1. We left out some good ones, like when I learned that Josh was judging the chili cook-off, and then we did like, have you ever judged a chili cook-off? We also did. There was the whole day we found out that, well, we were talking about how Josh is a hunt and peck guy on the keyboard, kind of, and then he had just recently discovered Control V. And then we asked on the 18th of February, do you think John Cook knows about Control V? And 52%, by the way, said no. But anyway, the number 1 poll question of the month of February, are your takes your currency? 59% said no. And that, of course, makes sense because 59% of you probably aren't radio hosts. My takes are my currency. And I'm very rich. People say I'm very rich. I'm really just talking about my takes.
I'm very rich.
Those are the top 5 polls of the month of February. John emails into the show.
Good collection.
I didn't even have to pressure you into doing the top 5 poll questions this month. Is Josh the issue with forgetting this? The last day of February, for whatever reason, is just a really easy day to remember. It's the 28th. It's a square.
I think it's because
7 days a week for 4 weeks.
Divisible by 7.
It's divisible by 7 for whatever reason. And today, it just so happened to fall on a Friday.
Yeah, it
Right?
kind of just lined up perfectly.
It was like, oh, okay.
Very satisfying.
We could probably do this today. Yeah, it's a nice square month. So no, I would consider that a one-off. I'm not throwing Josh under the bus for any of that. All right, Sipple is ready for us, and we are ready for him. We'll be back with our good friend Steve Sipple on a Friday, coming up on 1620 The Zone.
Steve Sipple.
Hut, hut, hike.
The conversation gets even more uncomfortable, okay?
Omaha.
Steve Sipple on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
All right, we're joined now by our friend, our colleague, our compadre, Steve Sipple from HuskerOnline.com and On3. Sipple, hello. How are you?
How are you guys doing in Omaha?
We're doing great. You taking the hog out yet?
Yeah, I did 2 days ago. I will today for sure, actually.
Yeah, I got a little windy, I think, yesterday, right? So you gotta be careful.
Connor.
What?
Connor. The wind's not a big factor.
It's not?
No.
Well, you want the most comfortable riding conditions that you could get, right?
How often does that happen in Nebraska?
Not very often.
You would not have a Harley if you were waiting for ideal conditions.
That's true. But it's been some time since it was out, I assume, right?
Yeah, there was a period there of cold that was unbearable. But no, this is good. This is pretty good conditions now.
Hey, what's this deal with you and candles that I'm reading about on?
Why are people asking? I didn't think it was that.
I don't know. I saw it as a topic on your message board, and I definitely clicked. I'll say that.
Yeah, I keep 2 candles going at all times, like a monk, kind of.
Yeah. Why? You just like the smell, or you prefer the light, or what?
Yeah, it's symbolic in some ways, and I think the scent is part of it. When you walk into a home that has that good scent, it's appealing, and I think it signifies that you're alive and kicking that day.
Nice.
I like them at night, and I think it saves electricity.
It definitely does if you're using them instead of the over-the-top lights. That's true.
Yeah. So really, there's a lot of things about them I like. To keep them going all the time, it is somewhat expensive. So I don't know if it evens it all out in terms of.
I was going to say, how many candles a week you going through here? Like a couple?
They cost $8 a piece to keep 2 going at all times. Going probably through 4 to 6 a week.
Oh my God, that's incredibly expensive.
I wouldn't say incredibly.
I mean, like, I don't. It's not currently in my budget to buy 4 to 6 candles a week at $8 a piece. That's like $50 a week on can. It's $200 a month of candles. Simple.
Yeah, it's definitely $200 a month. I would suspect that that's what it is.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, hey, look, you prioritize what you prioritize, right? I guess that's for you. It's candles.
Yeah,
huh.
It is. Yeah, I don't mind talking about that.
All right. Your thoughts on the week here? We're getting to meet assistant coaches. Hey, how interesting is the Phil Snow hire now that he's spoken, and I guess we have a little bit of a better idea of how impactful he's going to be on the program.
The whole picture is intriguing, and that's part of it for sure. If I was just sitting in a bar with Phil Snow right now, first of all, it'd be interesting because we'd be day drinking. But I would ask him, "Are you the co-coordinator?"
Yeah, it kind of seems like it, doesn't it?
Well, he didn't. Yeah, except his answer. His answer was pretty definitive. It was so definitive that it made me even think it more. Like, no, this is John Butler's defense. Now he will help. Obviously, he'll help with the game planning during the week. But as Phil pointed out, that's collaborative. And that was a good answer. It's always collaborative. But on game day, he made it clear that John will call the defense. And I don't want to make. I hope people don't feel like we're making a mountain out of a molehill here. We're not. It's just that Snow has been he's been a defensive coordinator at several different major college stops and the NFL. So
it shouldn't bother people that Phil Snow has a big impact on the program. Like, that's a guy who, who's who's been in a lot of places and has experience and definitely understands what Rule wants. Like, it's not that, but it's interesting. A lot of times you see associate head coach and you're like, oh, that's kind of like a figurehead, whatever. In the case of Phil Snow, it's definitely not that.
No, it's not. He made it clear that he wants to help it practice, walk around, coach different positions, help with different positions. And he can be very helpful to John. What it comes down to is this: as long as Butler's comfortable with the setup, that's all that matters. And I imagine he is.
Yeah.
But I've also been around long enough to know that there are certain individuals that they don't want a lot of meddling, and it's their call, it's their system, it's their defense. Like Dana Holgerson, you wouldn't want to meddle with Dana's offense. It's his deal. If you brought in an associate head coach on offense, I mean, there's no shot that you'd even have the thought that, okay, he's going to help Holgerson. No, it's Holgerson's system. So that's all it is.
Yeah.
But
the way
I think it's great to have Phil around. That's the bottom.
I agree. The way I view it on the defensive side is that it's rules. It's kind of rules defense, right? And you're bringing in, you're elevating John Butler, which is great. And I think he has, plenty of upside, obviously, as a coordinator and hasn't done it in a while. But you're bringing in Phil Snow to be an arm of Matt Rule. And it's Matt Rule's, fingerprints by proxy from Phil Snow. That's what it seems like to me if you're like in overly simple terms.
Everybody's an arm of Matt Rule.
That's true.
Some are big others,
Yeah, that's true. And so, yeah, I hey, and then one of the things, I mean, that sort of completes like the circle. The staff is complete at this point. But Rule, as he continues to, think about more big picture things and CEO, I thought it was interesting how Snow told that story about how they spent 6 to 7 hours in a meeting, and it was Rule, getting his expectations clear and up front. Like it's been a slow but definite transition, I think, from Rule on taking his hands away from like the X's and O football stuff. But I feel like we're definitely here now.
Yeah, I thought it was a really important little vignette that Snow shared there, because what goes through my mind during these months is, wow, Rule, this is almost like a reset. 7 new assistants. He has overhauled the recruiting department. Okay. It's 7 new assistants and really overhauled the recruiting department. Okay. You don't get a reset. I'm sure he's not thinking in terms of this is a reset, but it looks like one. So what I've been thinking is, wow, what an off season this is for Matt. He has to get all these people on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
And I said people because I just don't mean coaches. I mean,
it's a huge operation.
Yeah, you got a general manager now. You have to get acclimated in different ways. Different ways meaning different ways. I mean, think of the general manager coming in, has to get to know not only your personnel, but the personnel that you're recruiting, the personnel in the state, the coaching personnel. I mean, yeah, I got to think that I can't imagine how much Rule's working right now. You got to get all this in place before spring ball starts for sure. So yeah, it's a massive. It doesn't seem like people are talking about it a lot, but I'm going to write about it. It's almost like he's reset the whole thing.
Totally.
So, and I don't know. I mean, the question that comes to my mind is would he have had to do this if there was the previous AD? I don't know how all this, like, if this was just something that Rule came to the conclusion that I have to go a kind of a different direction with things, or did Dannon, where was Dannon's voice in all that? I just know there's massive changes, and And what spurred it exactly, I haven't really heard it addressed.
What do you think the significance of the aforementioned general manager, Pat Stewart? What do you think? Like, what does a day look like there? Given all the other pieces of the staff that we kind of talked about here.
It's a monumental hire. I think probably his salary will reflect that. If you look around, like Oklahoma, they're going to pay Jim Nagy $1 million. Belichick's paying his general manager $1.5 million. Alabama's paying theirs $825,000 over, per year over 3 years. These are major. It's all very hard to size up because it's so new, Connor, right? But I mean, I would guess he's second in command. Or this is the question. I guess when I say second in command, I mean behind Rule.
Mm-hmm.
The question you would have right away is he second in command behind Dannon? Is this a Dannon-driven hire, or is this a Rule-driven hire? That's the kind of stuff I don't know. I just don't. It's hard to know that. But the general manager position, my God, it's a big one.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very challenging position for Pat Stewart, but it's a critical position. I mean, it's because of the ability to judge personnel and slot payment to certain positions and certain personnel and understand your needs at a given time. It's a gigantic hire.
And Sipple, I'm sure you've heard this over the years, and Nebraska maybe had gained a reputation locally of a place that, maybe the positive spin on it was they're trying to do more with less, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Nebraska's trying to do more with less anymore. Obviously, you want to do more with less, but I think they're probably taking that statement and saying now, well, why can't we just do more with more? And
right, I don't.
They're spending some money. It feels.
Yeah, they are. They are. When I hear we're trying to do more with less, I hear, all right, let's just beat Minnesota and Wisconsin, and Iowa, and Northwestern, and we'll maybe not worry so much about Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. That's what I hear. That's how it's going to end up working.
Yeah.
If you're more, we got to do more with less now. All right, that's fine, but you're going to finish in the middle of the pack. There's some years you might shoot up in there every so often where you make the playoff. But even if you make the playoff, you're not going to go on a 4-game run. If you're going to beat the monsters, you got to spend with the monsters. You got to act like the monsters. And I think they do that. I think that mainly the hires of Holgerson and Eckler tell me that they're serious about it.
That feels
Butler too.
To your point earlier, Sipple, that feels like more of Dannon's personality. Like I don't know if it's a directive or whatever, but like Trev was he spent in some areas, he didn't in some other areas, and he was really in tune with what the budgets were and like he always had the vibe to me of let's do more with less guy. He may have even said that, I think Dannon's like, hey, we got the opportunity here. Why not go for it?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to split hairs a little bit here. Trev, I was always impressed by Trev's bottom line mentality about winning, though. I don't make it sound like we're on the Omaha radio station saying Trev wasn't all about winning, because he was. I do think you're right. I think he might have went about it a little different, maybe a little more budget conscious. I don't disagree with your opinion on that. It's just an opinion, though.
It is.
But this is clear. And if you listen to Dannon last night on his statewide radio show, he always talks about the importance of winning, which you shouldn't really have to speak that, but I like hearing it from the AD that there's a lot that goes into being an AD that doesn't really necessarily have to do with winning and losing, but he wants it to be about that. So yeah, I do wonder how impactful he's been in these monster moves that Rule's made.
All right, Simple. Besides burning all the rest of your candles for the week, what do you got coming up this weekend? What are you doing?
Tomorrow I got to write. Sunday we have this thing called the in-state. I'm working
Oh yeah, that's right. We just talked to Munson. He's excited about coming up doing the in-state tour.
Yeah, I'll see Munson at Steve Warren's place out there in West Omaha. So yeah, I'll be coming up to Crime Town.
No, Lincoln is Crime Town.
I'll be there at Crime Town tomorrow in West Crime Town.
You can't.
So,
that's not going to work. That's not going to work.
So yeah, in-state tour. So there'll be a lot of the top prospects on hand. I'm looking forward to talking to Jet Tamala.
Mm-hmm.
That big Erickson, the big Erickson lineman, Mike Erickson's boy. That sort of thing. And then it's just a 7-day work week, basically. Although today I'm not exactly in full work mode.
It's okay. All right, Simple. Well, we appreciate it as always. You're the best. We'll talk to you later.
Best. Thanks for the conversation, Connor.
Okay. Love you. Bye.
Love you too. Bye.
All right. That's Steve Simple. HuskerOnline.com. You got to throw in an I love you every once in a while. Just keep him on his toes.
If I spent $200 a month on candles, I would not be able to afford my living.
No, just think if I had $200 extra dollars a month that weren't on candles, and there's no
if I
don't spend $200 a month on electricity for my house, so something's not adding. I don't think he did the math right on this.
If I won the lottery, I'm not sure I would spend even half of that on candles, even half of $200.
Bill Brasky writes in on
and I
Twitter,
like a good candle.
Simple burns $200 in candles a month. It all adds up now. #psycho. Yep. He's just got these things every once in a while that he discovers about himself or that we discover about him. And it's worth talking about. All right. We'll be back. Still plenty to get to the weekend. Baseball, basketball, and so much more. Coming up in the 1 o'clock hour of the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back. Plenty to get to here in the hour where our local basketball teams and our local baseball teams in action. We'll get through a couple of those things, but as always, we have time for you all. 402-951-1620. That's where we go to the hotline now, and we find old man Doug. Hi, Doug. Is this about the upside down hat?
Hello?
Oh, really? Interesting. What's it about?
Connor?
Yes. Hi, Doug. You're on the air.
Okay, you cut out on me.
Sorry.
I'm on Dodge Street. You can't expect cell service on Dodge Street.
No,
right?
the biggest street in Omaha. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, I did appreciate you putting the poll question out there for the hat.
Yeah.
So the hat was a fail.
Had to do it. No, the hat's good. I think the hat is good, and you're just gonna have to get with the times.
No, I'm not. I prefer to read my letters properly. But I guess that brought up another question after Josh put out his Gene Hackman movie ratings.
Oh.
And it got me to thinking, he didn't have Hoosiers on there, which is the greatest sports movie of all time. And I was sitting there asking myself the question, I wonder if Happer has seen Hoosiers.
Happer has seen Hoosiers.
Okay, that's one of your 10 movies that you've seen. How many other Gene Hackman?
I would say that I've only seen Hoosiers as of within the last probably 3 or so years. It was a new one for me, which enough people told me to watch it, so I watched it. And then I went through the rest of the catalog yesterday, and there wasn't a whole lot. I definitely have seen The Replacements, but probably not many more than that.
I was pleasantly surprised, and I don't know if I'd call myself a Gene Hackman fan, but I like most of the movies he's in, and I forgot about all the really, really good ones he was in. So I'm hoping that you'll spend a little more time, looking at some Gene Hackman movies. Just most of them are really, really good.
I'm always open for suggestions, Doug. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, instead of trying to be young and like a Gen Z or you're probably a millennial, right?
I'm a millennial, yes, definitely, right in the middle.
Okay. All right. Well, that was a Gen Z hat that you had on. Maybe or is it Gen X? I can't even keep track.
No, I think you had it. You Gen Z, yeah. Gen Z's younger than me, right?
Okay. All right. Well, you do a great job on the mic there. Appreciate it, but like I said, I don't want to have to look at you in a rear view mirror to be able to read your hat.
Thanks for the call, Doug. Good to hear from you.
All right.
I knew we were going to get to the hat eventually. I had a feeling we'd get to the hat.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna wear the hat every game. All right. So if the hat, if the hat really makes you that uncomfortable, you don't have to worry about it. It was just the one game. All right. We'll return for the Butler game for you having to see my shiny bald head. And that will return. So as long as we can get that baseball game moved that day, once again, please do that. All right, so I'm going through the Gene Hackman list right now. Gosh, there's not much on here that I have seen.
Admittedly, as someone that watches a lot of movies, I am.
Yeah, you are a movie guy too.
I'm very much behind on his stuff. I haven't seen a lot of them. I've seen Hoosiers. I've seen the original Superman where he's Lex Luthor. But
okay.
Yeah, outside of that, I added a few to my watch list this week. I really want to see The Replacements.
He's really good in stuff that he's in, and he seemed like a pretty well liked guy. But I don't know, man. Are these? There's not a whole lot of. Not that this is means anything, but there's not a whole lot of A-list movies on here either. It's not like I feel horrible for not having seen all of the Gene Hackman movies. He was in some good movies. There's probably some holes in here for me that I haven't seen. Definitely, as there is with any actor, but I don't know. But I have seen The Replacements, and that movie's great.
I will be checking that out.
Yeah, you should watch that. That's a legit good sports movie.
Out of that and Hoosiers, which was your favorite?
Well,
kind of hard to compare those.
So the problem with me and Hoosiers is that I saw Hoosiers after I turned 30, like for the first time, and all the magic was gone, right? Like I had seen all the scenes and like the speeches and like the main points, and it's just not as magical anymore. Same thing happened with me and Remember the Titans. Like I didn't see that movie until later in life, and I'm like, oh, this is like a Disney-ish kind of kids whimsical type of movie. It doesn't really work on me anymore now that I'm like, past college and I'm watching it for the first time. All right, so Amazing Daniel has some questions as well. Amazing Daniel said that Hoosiers is the greatest sports movie of all time. Holy crap! Now, see, I balked at that one a little bit as well. And he says he's got multiple Oscars. Like, okay, yes, he's got multiple. I apologize. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm missing a whole lot by missing I don't know. I'm not going to make any comparisons to other things because I will just end up sounding like an idiot in all these deals. He's a great actor and won a bunch of awards. And I look at the list and I'm like, yeah, there's some good movies in there.
Some good suggestions.
A lot of them seem like
I will be adding them to my list.
A lot of them seem like popular movies for people who watch a lot of movies. And we know this about me. I do not watch movies. Not very many anyway. And if you're going to get me to watch a movie, it's more likely than not like an incredibly like commercially popular movie. That's
very fair.
That's where my line is. That's my excuse. So Josh had 5 Superman, 4 Crimson Tide, 3 Royal Tenenbaums, 2 The French Connection, and 1 Unforgiven. None of which I have seen. Only 2 of which I have heard of. He also said special recognition to Young Frankenstein, not a Gene Hackman movie, but it is a movie in which Gene Hackman appears. And then he was asked, he got a lot of responses on this, and he was asked about Hoosiers, and he was asked about The Replacements, and he said he wasn't a Hoosiers guy, but he was considering putting The Replacements on the list. That's where, yeah, and he should. All right. Elsewhere, thank you for the call, Doug. It's appreciated. Basketball this weekend. All right. So Nebraska basketball hosting Minnesota. It's a can't lose game. You want to call it a can't lose game? You want to call it a have to win game, a must win game? You feel free. You go right ahead. That's what I'm calling it. It's, you look at it and you're like, well, Nebraska needs to win 2 out of their last 3 in order to, put themselves in a good position for the NCAA tournament. I generally agree with that sentiment. But once again, bubble teams are viewed in what their resume looks like, and not necessarily that one game is going to make or break your resume. But when you are on the bubble and it's March, literally tomorrow is March, when you're on the bubble and it's March 1st, everything really means a lot. So anytime you move up and down is going to play a significant role in whether you make the NCAA tournament or not. And frankly, like, I don't know if I really, if I see, I'm sure that there is a path. I don't know how likely the path is to Nebraska making the NCAA tournament with losing tomorrow to Minnesota. Like, okay, get 2 out of your last 3, great. But losing at home to Minnesota is would be a black eye on the resume. And I know Minnesota's playing really well right now. And once again, go back to what BC said earlier, put it in perspective a little bit here. Nebraska, if they lose each of their last 3 games, is going to miss the Big Ten tournament, right? Minnesota is on the outside looking in right now. So yes, they have something to play for. That doesn't make it any less significant of a loss at home. They're 14-14 on the season right now. and Nebraska would fall to 17-12 with a loss, and they would fall to 7-11 in the Big Ten Conference, 4 games under 500 with no chance to get back to 500, as they do have a chance right now if they go 10-10. They win the remaining games they have in a conference. If you go 20-11, 10-10 in the Big Ten, that's round, and it looks like, hey, that looks like an NCAA tournament team to me. 17-14, 7-13, that does not, obviously. And so you can see the difference. And once again, how much differently can these 3 games play out? Well, we know what the gap is between Nebraska's good and Nebraska's bad, but we're still talking about a miniature 3-game season. And Nebraska needs to win more than they lose down the stretch. And probably, I don't know how much you can really move the needle by what you accomplish in Indianapolis for the Big Ten basketball tournament this year. But, in order to feel comfortable, it does get some of those bubble teams feeling comfortable if you're able to roll through a few in the Big Ten tournament. So it's a huge game. Nebraska needs to have it tomorrow. They can't play like crap offensively. They'll get beat. They need to bring the same defensive effort that they brought against Michigan on Monday night. So we always ask before these games, what do you expect? No, man. Like, I feel like the group is, it's been said that they play to their environment, and I believe that that's partly true. It's also been said that they play up or down to their competition. I believe that that's partly true as well. But I think I would, if I'm making the case as to like, all right, how do we figure out what's going to happen on an individual basis for these teams? It's hard to predict before the game, but I can predict it after tip-off. And it's not so much of a prediction anymore. It's more of a live bet, I guess, at that point. But after tip-off, I could tell what their energy's like, how engaged they are. And I mean, credit them. They stayed engaged all the way through the other night without getting any results offensively. So that trend obviously needs to continue. But if they have that side of the ball, they'll be able to win this game. Obviously, they need to make more shots. You expect a progression in that category. But I don't know. It'll be a pretty good environment at PBA, I think. Little bit of a do or die type of urgency to them. Hopefully that shows, and hopefully they play well. I would expect that to be the case. I expect them to win, but I don't know. Their gap in between what their good is and what their bad is just so wide that it's just really hard.
You'd think that there's no possible way the offensive output will be worse than Monday, but who knows?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
All
yeah,
right.
like you said, huge gap. Oh, also, Joey update. We have wheels on the ground at Epley. He has made it. The Eagle has landed. He's here.
Mason Daniel writes in, he's still talking about the Gene Hackman movies. Like, just because you haven't heard of Enemy of the State doesn't mean it wasn't a top 15 at the box office that year, ahead of a bunch of movies you've definitely seen. Okay, Daniel, I get it. All right. It's good. It's a good movie. I haven't seen it. Once again, how can I comment on stuff that I haven't seen? Nor do I hear it get talked about that much on a popular level. All right. Gene Hackman. What do you want me to say? Gene Hackman was really good. He was a really good actor. I haven't seen very many of his movies. We'll be back after this on 1620 The Zone. got some bad takes on the internet here from Isaac Trotter of CBS Sports. He went through all of the major conferences and picked his all-conference teams and conference players of the year and defensive players of the year. Here's what he says for the Big East. The coach of the year, Rick Pitino, St. John's. The co-freshman of the year, Liam McNeely and Thomas Sorber. I have no argument with really either of the first two. Sure, Pitino. The player of the year, RJ Lewis from St. John's. The defensive player of the year, Zuby Ejiofor from St. John's. And his first team, Cam Jones, RJ Lewis, Kadari Richmond, Eric Dixon, and Ryan Kalkbrenner. I don't know what the argument is for Ryan Kalkbrenner not winning Defensive Player of the Year. Frankly, I find the argument difficult to make that he's not the Conference Player of the Year.
Is it just like a fatigue thing?
I don't know. He already won the award 3 times. He's been every bit as good, if not better, coming back for this year. He's like, I'm sorry to break it to this person, like he is going to be the defensive player of the year at least. I can at least understand and hear the argument for RJ Lewis to be the conference player of the year. St. John's is good. They're going to win. They won the league outright. Or they have there's a 0.008% chance that they don't at this point. Like they're going to win the league outright. Whatever. Give it to the best guy on the best team. That's cool. But I think you can make an argument for Kalkbrenner there. Defensive player of the year, I don't know what it could possibly be. I saw these St. John's accounts over the last week talking about how Ejiofor, hey, he is the best defender on the conference's best defense. So if you follow the logic of the player of the year is the best team on the conference's, or the best player on the conference's best team, then let's follow that logic to the defensive side. And I just don't think that's ever how defensive players of the year have been awarded. And it shouldn't be exclusively how conference players of the year should be awarded. Anyway, inside the ballot, he writes on CBS Sports, there's a red storm brewing in the Big East. St. John's dominates my ballot after it stormed through the Big East. They did lose. People forget. Ejiofor has been one of my favorite defenders in the country. He gets the slight nod over the brilliant Kalkbrenner, who will just have to settle for 3 Big East Defensive Player of the Year awards, not 4. Everything else was pretty self-explanatory except for Freshman of the Year. Both Sorber and McNeely will end up missing severe chunks of conference play, and the numbers are razor thin. It makes sense for them to share. Both were terrific and the best players on their respective teams this year. They're outside of, I like Zuby better. There was no reasoning for that. So there's a Conference Player of the Year ballot. That is going to be wrong, by the way. Ryan Kalkbrenner is going to win Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East. I just hope people understand that. I don't know what metrics they're looking at. Obviously, he's important to what they do, but it's not right. Venmo Chris writes in, by the way, back to our previous conversation. Connor, you should feel bad about not seeing every movie. I think you should have seen Very, Very Sad. How dare you?
How dare you?
Sometimes, you got to have your holes somewhere. I guess I have my holes everywhere. But I've already admitted that I'm a big fat idiot. Like I like simple movies, or I tend to watch more simple movies than I do movies that movie people enjoy. I'm not a movie person. Sorry. My apologies out there. Anyway, on Creighton, going to Xavier this weekend. So obviously you make the case that Xavier needs it really, really bad. They do, more so than when they played in Omaha. We answered the question for Bullet Point Bob earlier. And how important it is for them. It's a pelt on their wall. It'd be, to add that to a win over Marquette and a win over UConn in the conference is pretty significant at this point, and there's only so many opportunities to do so. And they get one in their backyard, which has traditionally been a tough place to play. Is it solely the difference between them making the NCAA tournament and not? Probably not. I mean, if they don't make it, you could just say, well, look at what they did to get themselves to this point, and then you have your answer right there. I do think it's an equal, like, we're not talking about life or death here. We're not talking about making the NCAA tournament or not making the NCAA tournament. Number one, I feel like Creighton needs to just play better. They have found a way to. They've gone what? I mean, they've won 11 of their last 13 or something in that range. But more importantly, in this really tough stretch that ended before the DePaul game, they were 4-2 over that 6-game stretch. That was where they played really each of the six toughest teams in the league. Then they beat DePaul. Really, every game in there besides the Marquette game was a pretty rough shooting effort from them, and it was inconsistent the other night against DePaul, and they just flat out weren't really good the other night against DePaul. So I think they need to play well for their own sake, first of all, in a tough environment on Saturday, and then going to Seton Hall coming up early next week, and then coming back home for Butler next Saturday. So they need to get themselves in the right position, but also from a functional standpoint, like from a number standpoint, you do need a win, or else you might have to kiss goodbye. What I've heard so much about Operation 6 Seed this year. Now Creighton has some history that goes behind him now, and they you kind of see the logo and you see the team, you're like, oh, they've been a threat in March. It's crazy how fast that reputation, by the way, changes, because they had traditionally had the reputation of not winning in March, and it was true for a very long time. All of a sudden, that dam broke for the Sweet 16, and you're there 3 out of the last 4 years, and you're one step away from the Final Four. Just how the narrative and how the perception of what your team is changes a little bit, but would love to get up climb that ladder as high as you could possibly get. And in order to do that, getting a quad one, whatever win on the road at Xavier is a pretty big deal. And then 2 games that you should win to finish out the regular season. Get yourself the 2 seed, play whoever you run into in the quarterfinals of the Big East. Then you get a crack at Marquette on a neutral court, probably. And then maybe you get a crack at St. John's in the final. And you kind of go from there. But you absolutely do go from there, because Selection Sunday would be the next day after that. But if you don't win tomorrow, that road, first of all, once again, it's another game in which you didn't play well, more likely than not. And second of all, it's that climb up to a 6 or a 7 or wherever they need to get to kind of get out of that, that mess where if you win your first game, you're going to run into a 2 or a 1 seed. A 6, like, I saw some discussion about this earlier in the year, and I thought about it after this. A 6 seed might be like, if you are not one of the best teams in the country, which Creighton's not, if you are not one of the best 16 teams in the country, a 6 seed is probably like exactly where you want to be, because you're wearing white jerseys in the first game. You have a bubbly team in your first game of the NCAA tournament. And then you play a 3, which anything from about 3 to 6 on those seed lines, those teams are basically the same, except for, the handful on the 3, 4, 5 sides. They just won a couple more games, but they're generally the same type of teams.
Yeah.
Right. They won their conferences, or they won their conference tournaments, or they got hot at the right time, or they beat the right team, whatever it might be. But those teams are like, if you tier it out for college basketball, it's the top. I mean, this year it's probably the top 2. And then there's another tier below that with Duke and Auburn. And, but basically there's like your top 10 teams in the country. And then it's just like it is in college football. There's like your 11 to 35, 11 to 40. It's pretty comparable, right? And so who you match up against is going to be really important. So Creighton needs to climb that ladder as much as they possibly can. The Mavs have a chance to wrap up the Summit League title outright on Saturday before they head to Sioux Falls next week. And that is your weekend ahead in basketball. In baseball, Nebraska heads to the Frisco College Classic. Sam Houston State, LSU, and K-State this weekend. LSU obviously notable in there. Nebraska gets a hack at another SEC power. They already took down Vanderbilt so far this year. Hopefully Tucker Timmerman is not there, so there can't be any more bruises on his face. Creighton heads to Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, take on College of Charleston for 3. And the Mavs continue their series against Kansas after getting walk-off grand slammed last night. That was tough.
Yeah.
All 3 of our local baseball teams are home next week, starting with Nebraska and Omaha on Tuesday from Tal Anderson Field. Can you believe it? Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Will all of the games happen? Most likely not.
Probably not.
But
probably not.
They are scheduled.
You got to stay nimble. You got to stay nimble around this time of year. That's for sure.
Stay on the toes.
All right, we'll be back. We have the polls. We'll tell you what to watch next on 1620 The Zone. All right, from the NFL, the Rams and Matthew Stafford have reached an agreement today on a restructured deal that keeps him in Los Angeles. A lot of chatter, buzz the last couple days. Are they going to trade him? Is he going to sign with somebody else? They have restructured his deal. He will remain the quarterback of the LA Rams. As a result, Adam Schefter has this for us on Twitter. With Matthew Stafford remaining with the Rams, the New York Giants are investigating all veteran quarterback options, including Aaron Rodgers, per sources. Aaron Rodgers, a New York Giant, after his his 2 years with the Jets that went very, very well, incredibly well.
I'm sure the Giants' years will be just as bad, if not worse, if it comes to fruition.
Fortunately for them, they haven't. We'll see what happens when it happens, or if it happens, but they don't. I mean, the first year with the Jets, they put all the resources into Rodgers, like they thought they were going to win the Super Bowl. Like they put everything into that. Doesn't feel like it'd be the case for what you do with Aaron Rodgers 2 years later. Arguably, shouldn't have been the case 2 years ago when he joined the Jets, but now definitely not the case. You're not pouring all your resources into a team that is led by Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers would be a placeholder quarterback at this stage of his career. Gosh, that would be kind of funny, to be honest with you. It's one of the big questions of the offseason, I suppose. Where does Aaron Rodgers end up? All right, let's go to the polls. Peterman, I don't know. Did you throw any up today?
I got 3 up today, which is
look at you,
more than
my
I
friend.
usually do.
Thank you. You did these in secret.
I did a couple during the crossover and then one later.
Are jeans canceled? Yes. In my mind, they are. I can't imagine I'll win this. 73% said no, jeans are not canceled. Jeans are still alive. More financially smart, Gary Sharp investment, revitalizing Pizza Hut or buying a penguin. What do you think on this?
I like the Pizza Hut.
I just think that's you're potentially creating yourself a big hole there.
If you really map it out.
Yeah, but if you're just buying a penguin, at the end of the day, all you're missing, if it doesn't work out, all you're missing is a penguin, and all you're missing is the price that you put into buying the penguin.
And then whatever damage it does to the house.
While seemingly expensive, it's not going to, if you're trying to buy Pizza Hut and revitalize Pizza Hut and turn it into 80s, it's a pretty high risk. I'm going to go with the penguin.
Very fair. Good argument.
63% say Pizza Hut. And finally, our last poll question, do people like Shrek? Yeah, people like Shrek.
People like Shrek?
Of course. People like Shrek. 74% say yes. Now, to the...
Yeah, we could say, do people like new Shrek?
To the question of, would you watch Shrek 5? Probably not. I'm going to say probably not in that regard. All right, what are we watching, Peter, man? You got anything?
So it may... it may be the fact that this is my 8th straight hour of radio, but I started to compile a list of things and then my brain started to hurt. But
understood. Peter, you've done incredible work.
Generally, it's a pretty good weekend. All local teams, basketball teams are in action tomorrow. You can find them throughout the day. There's some NBA tonight. There's some college tonight. Purdue and UCLA on the big Fox.
That
tonight.
is the Ken Palm game of the night on Ken
that
Palm.
should be a good one.
Iowa Northwestern tonight is at 8 on FS1.
Yes, some good Friday and Saturday night, and then
that's a short slate tonight. Actually,
it's Oscar Sunday on Sunday.
Oh my God, it is.
The Oscars are on Sunday.
Wait, are you serious?
They are.
Wow, I have heard no buzz about this. Probably because I'm not in the movie world.
That is kind of a funny statement, but if you're not in the movie realm, you would I would not expect anyone to hear about it. But it's been the most tumultuous road to the Oscars in quite some time.
Really? So last year the movie that won everything was Barbie, right?
Barbie did win some stuff. Oppenheimer was the one that won the most.
Oppenheimer.
That's the one that won a vast majority of what it was nominated for.
What do you think is going to be the movie of this year's Oscars? Like
honestly, and I've seen them all now. I got finished up this week. I did see The Brutalist. I wasn't as high on it as some people were.
Is it Nosferatu?
That was not up for anything,
Okay, thank
actually.
God.
It was not. That was. I did like that movie, but it's not up for anything. I think, and I just saw this week. I think Anora could win a good chunk of awards. And the Best Picture, it's kind of a toss up. There's a few that I think could win, but Anora, I was a huge fan of. Josh really liked it too.
Okay,
we were both on the
just hearing about this for the first
Anora train, but yeah, I mean, The Brutalist. I wouldn't be surprised if that won. Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan Timmy movie.
Oh,
that could win a few things.
Yeah, that'll probably do well. Commercially successful.
I think this is a year where it's going to kind of spread the wealth. Everyone's going to win for a variety of things.
All right. I'm looking forward to that, considering I just found out about it for the very first time. That's what to watch
Sunday
is for.
night. Check it out.
All right. That is it for us, Peter. Thank you for all of your 8 hours today. It's greatly appreciated. If you missed anything, you can find it all on the website, 1620thezone.com. The crossover coming up next.